Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Jesse never imagined his suburban paradise could crumble quickly. 15 years of marriage reduced to hushed phone calls and the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne. He'd catch Julia glancing at messages with a spark in her eyes whenever Travis flashed on the screen. Then came the night she whispered, "He's unstoppable, you know." And Jesse's heart sank. Driven by suspicion, he set up hidden cameras, bracing for the truth. What he found shattered him. Julia in their own bedroom, giggling under Travis's touch. Now, Jesse plans his revenge, while the world waits to see how far betrayal can push a man. Dear listeners, before we dive into today's story, let us know your location in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. Jesse Davis had always believed he and Julia were living the American dream. 15 years of marriage, a sprawling suburban home in Crestwood Hills, a stable, well-paying job as the founder and owner of Davis Aeroparts, a regional supplier of aerospace fasteners, everything from specialized bolts that held airplane panels together to advanced rivets used in small private jets. He wasn't naive. He knew their life wasn't a perfect fairy tale, but it was pretty good. At least that's what he told himself each morning when he sipped his black coffee and scanned the day's shipments on his iPad. The trouble started as a vibration in his gut rather than a thunderclap, an intangible sense that something about Julia had shifted. She used to greet him at the door whenever he came home from the warehouse, fling her arms around his neck, and ask about his day. Now, she was increasingly preoccupied. New phone calls, new texts, new excuses to slip away. Jesse would never call himself a suspicious person, but in their 15th year of marriage, he found himself quietly observing her the way a hawk watches the field at dawn, still and silent, but every sense tingling. That morning, as he flipped scrambled eggs in their sunlit kitchen, Julia breezed in, hair still damp from the shower. She wore her usual corporate attire, dark navy pencil skirt, white blouse, but there was a spark in her eyes that he couldn't place. "Morning," she said, a certain brightness in her tone. Jesse offered a small smile. "Morning. Want some eggs?" She glanced at the time on her phone, brow creasing. "I'm actually in a bit of a hurry. Travis asked if I could get in early to help prep for a new client meeting." Travis. The name wasn't foreign. He'd been hearing it a lot lately, ever since Julia started her job as a personal assistant at Zephyr Consulting. She joined the company 6 months ago, working directly under Travis Mitchell, the managing partner. By all accounts, Travis was charismatic, self-assured, a visionary, as Julia called him. Jesse watched her gather her purse and a small binder. "You've been taking on a lot of extra work lately." Julia paused for just a beat, then plastered on a quick smile. "It's a great opportunity for me to grow, you know? The more I do, the more indispensable I become." He said nothing, only nodded, letting her slip past him. And as she did, he caught the faint trace of perfume, nothing new or floral, but a heavier, almost spicy scent that wasn't the same brand she normally wore. He swallowed. "Have a good day, Jules." She tossed him a distracted wave over her shoulder. "You too, babe. Don't work too hard." His morning routine felt off after she left. Instead of enjoying the quiet, he felt restless. Jesse finished his eggs alone, hearing only the hum of the refrigerator in the background. That subtle, persistent hum reminded him of his own internal tension. He rinsed the dishes, set them in the drying rack, then grabbed his jacket and drove to Davis Aeroparts, a 15-minute commute that usually calmed him. Today, though, the drive only churned up more questions. Why did Julia keep mentioning Travis so often, almost starstruck? Why the new cologne on her clothes? Why the sudden urgency in her schedule? He'd never been the clingy or controlling type, but maybe he'd been too trusting. At the warehouse, the usual routine kept him busy for a few hours. He supervised the inventory of specialized rivets that had just arrived from a supplier in Denver. He spoke with a couple of his major clients, small aviation startups needing consistent shipments of high-grade bolts. Work was bustling, profitable, but his mind drifted back to Julia. Lunch rolled around, and that's when he got a text from Phoebe, Julia's best friend since college. "Hey, Jesse. I was hoping to catch up with both of you soon. Julia's been so swamped with Travis. Late nights, weekend calls must be intense. You guys still good for brunch Sunday? It seemed innocent enough. Yet Jesse's stomach nodded. Another mention of these late nights with Travis. Another subtle signal that Julia's professional life had begun overshadowing her personal one. He typed a quick reply, "We'll be there." Julia hasn't said much about her schedule, but I'm sure we can make Sunday work. He hit send, but his hand trembled slightly. When had he started feeling anxious about a simple mention of his wife's boss? And why did that single line, so swamped with Travis, make him want to punch a wall? Jesse inhaled deeply, forced himself to push the phone aside and refocused on the day's tasks. He'd always been practical, and there was no reason to jump to conclusions. But the tension in his spine told him something was indeed off. That evening, a casual dinner with some friends brought more strange vibes. They gathered at a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, a place with warm lighting and large booths. Usually, such gatherings were comforting. Tonight, the atmosphere felt charged. He and Julia sat across from a couple they knew from the neighborhood, Matt and Serena. They sipped wine, shared breadsticks, joked about local property taxes. Everything seemed normal until the conversation turned to work. "So how's Zephyr Consulting treating you?" Matt asked, swirling the last of his red wine. Julia's face lit up. "Zephyr's amazing. And Travis, well, he's unstoppable. He's secured these huge accounts. Did you know he was featured in Business Today? They called him one of the top innovators under 45. Serena leaned in. "Oh, is that the article about top entrepreneurs? I think I saw it." "Yeah," Julia nodded eagerly. "He's so driven. He's got these big visions for expanding the firm into global markets. I mean, he's practically unstoppable if he puts his mind to something." Jesse found his jaw clenching. He nursed his drink in silence for a moment, eyeing her animated expressions, her voice pitched higher, her posture leaning forward, as if she was talking about a celebrity crush. "And how about you, Jesse?" Serena asked politely, turning her attention to him. "Your company still going strong?" He cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's going well. We just shipped out a big order to an aviation firm in Phoenix. Our second quarter was up 12%. "That's great," Matt said, "but I've heard aerospace can be super competitive." "Sure can, but we manage. I've been in it for over a decade now. There's always a market for good quality fasteners. Planes have thousands of bolts, right?" Julia flashed him a quick smile. "That's true. Travis always jokes about your hardware business, but I tell him you're more than just nuts and bolts." A sharp flicker of annoyance sparked in Jesse's gut. "Travis jokes about your hardware business?" Did she not realize how condescending that sounded? He forced a laugh, but inside, something twisted. It was subtle, like a spider weaving threads across his mind, each strand representing a small sign that Julia was changing, that maybe she no longer viewed him with the same admiration. They finished dinner with polite conversation, but the taste left in Jesse's mouth was strangely bitter. Later that night, well past midnight, Jesse was brushing his teeth when he heard Julia's muffled voice from the living room. She was on her cell, talking quietly, sounding almost clandestine. He turned off the faucet, padded softly toward the hallway so he could listen. He caught a few words. "Don't worry, I'll handle it." "No, Jesse's asleep." "Right? Tomorrow." "Okay, bye." A quiet beep ended the call. Jesse stood in the dark, shoulders tense, as Julia re-entered the hallway. She practically jumped when she saw him standing there. "Oh, you scared me," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "Sorry," Jesse said calmly, though his heart thumped in his ears. "Who were you talking to?" She forced a quick smile, brushing off invisible lint on her shirt. "Oh, just Phoebe. She's stressing about something at work." The way she avoided his eyes told him that was a lie, but he wasn't prepared to launch an accusation, so he simply nodded, stepped aside to let her pass, and said, "All right, ready for bed?" "Sure," she answered, slipping past him. In the darkness of their bedroom, he lay awake for hours, mind racing. He had never before doubted his wife's honesty so thoroughly, but her shifting behaviors, those phone calls, that new perfume, the admiration for Travis fed his worst fears. And a small voice at the back of his mind warned him, "Don't be the blind husband. Don't ignore the signs." The next day, the pattern continued. The pattern. Julia came home late, claiming she'd had an impromptu working dinner with Travis to finalize some proposals. She carried the faint whiff of whiskey on her breath, though she told Jesse it was only a sip of celebratory champagne after sealing a client deal. He tried to appear nonchalant as he made dinner for them. "You must be putting in serious hours. Are they at least paying you overtime?" She gave a dismissive shrug. "Travis says he'll make it worth my while at bonus time." The mention of Travis's name again made Jesse's teeth grit, but he kept his face neutral. "I hope that's the case." Julia caught the edge in his tone. "You sound doubtful." "It's just, I worry about you overworking. That's all." She exhaled, shoulders tensing. "I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. This is a big chance for me to prove myself. I'm sure you understand how it feels starting your own company. You had to hustle, right?" He nodded, biting his tongue. It was true. He did hustle at the beginning. But something about the way she snapped at him told him this conversation wasn't just about working late. She was defending Travis, again, dismissing Jesse's concerns, again. The following weekend, they were supposed to attend a barbecue at Jesse's parents' house. It was a monthly tradition: grilled steaks, fresh corn on the cob, and old family friends. Usually Julia was the first to show up, helping Jesse's mom in the kitchen, laughing with Jesse's dad about the local baseball team. This time she texted Jesse an hour before, saying she couldn't make it. Some emergency call from the office had come up. Jesse's mother frowned when she saw him arrive alone. "Where's Julia?" she asked, handing him a lemonade. He forced a casual shrug. "She got tied up at work." His father shook his head. "Work on a Saturday? Ridiculous." Jesse tried to laugh it off. "Yeah, well, you know how it is with these big firms. They never sleep, right?" But the look on his parents' faces said they found it strange, too. On the drive home, Jesse felt a creeping sense of humiliation. What if his parents suspected marital problems? He wasn't ready to discuss that with them. When he got home, the place was quiet. Julia's car was in the driveway, but the lights were off. He found her in the bedroom, dozing with the laptop open and piles of files strewn across the bed. He just stood there, watching her for a moment in the faint glow of a bedside lamp. She looked exhausted, or perhaps he wanted to believe she was. Maybe she was just bored. He couldn't tell. Then quietly, he closed the bedroom door, giving her space and letting his thoughts swirl in the hallway. A few days later, Phoebe popped by the house. She'd texted earlier. "Coffee time? I want to see you guys." Jesse figured it was a perfect opportunity to get a read on what Julia had been saying to her best friend. Julia was at work when Phoebe arrived. The minute Phoebe stepped inside, she gave him an apologetic smile. "Hope you don't mind me coming over. Julia said she'd be working late again." "Sure," Jesse said, leading her to the kitchen. "Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea?" "Coffee would be great." He busied himself preparing the coffee maker while Phoebe looked around the kitchen. "You guys have such a nice home. I forget how spacious it is." Jesse nodded, a tight smile on his face. "Yeah, it's quiet these days." She seemed to pick up on his mood. "Everything okay, Jesse?" He turned, meeting her gaze. Phoebe wasn't just Julia's best friend, she was a friend to both of them, or so he'd thought. "You tell me," he said gently. "Julia's working a lot with Travis. Seems like she's never home." Phoebe took a moment to choose her words. "Look, I think she's just excited. Travis is this big shot, and he's noticed her potential. She talks a lot about how he's grooming her for bigger roles." "Yeah, I've heard. She's definitely enthusiastic about it." Phoebe tapped her nails on the kitchen counter. "I don't want to intrude, but maybe you two should talk about balancing personal time and work. Julia can get carried away when she's passionate about something." Jesse wanted to ask if Phoebe suspected anything romantic was going on, but he swallowed the question. It felt like a loaded gun, something that might backfire if he said it outright. "Thanks," he said instead. "I appreciate the concern." They chatted about mundane things, neighborhood news, Phoebe's new gym routine, an upcoming birthday party. Eventually, Phoebe left, and Jesse was alone again with the unspoken tension that filled the house. That night, Julia came home even later than usual, close to 11. Jesse was in the living room, the TV muted, a single lamp on. She walked in, her hair somewhat disheveled, a sheen of sweat on her forehead. He rose to greet her. "Hey, you okay?" She sighed, dropped her purse on the couch. "It was insane tonight. Travis wanted to revise our pitch deck last minute for tomorrow's investor meeting. I'm wiped." Jesse stepped closer, noticing again that faint cologne. "You smell different," he said, trying to keep his tone neutral. She sniffed the sleeve of her blouse. "Oh yeah, Travis was hugging everyone goodnight. He's a big cologne guy, you know. Guess it rubbed off." The image that flared in Jesse's mind, Travis hugging Julia, pressing his face to hers, made his blood pound. "He was hugging everyone, huh?" Julia shrugged, not quite meeting his eyes. "It's just how he is." Jesse stared at her, the tension ballooning in the quiet living room. He wanted to say more, to ask if Travis did more than just hug, but he held his tongue. Instead, he managed a brittle smile. "All right, let's get some rest." "Yeah," she agreed, looking relieved that he didn't push. But as they climbed into bed, each lying on their separate side, Jesse felt their marriage shifting like tectonic plates below the surface. He didn't accuse her that night, but in his mind the conclusion was forming. He could not ignore these signs anymore. They were too loud, too blatant. He'd have to investigate further like any good strategist, like the business-savvy, methodical man he was. He'd built his company from scratch. He knew how to gather facts, prepare for obstacles, and strike when the time was right. Julia's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, lighting up with a calendar reminder. Jesse had just finished his first cup of morning coffee, eyes still gritty with half-sleep. The notification read, "Meeting, TD 9:30 p.m. He frowned. TD Travis Diamond, presumably. A meeting at 9:30 at night? That was hardly standard business practice, especially for a corporate consultancy. He heard Julia rushing out of the shower, so he grabbed a dish towel and tried to steady his breathing. When she came in wrapped in a robe, hair dripping, he asked casually, "Did your phone just go off for a 9:30 p.m. meeting?" She froze for a microsecond before replying, "Oh, that's some sort of office code we use like a placeholder for tasks we might handle after hours." "Nothing to worry about." Jesse raised an eyebrow. "You never mentioned it before." "Really? I thought I did. It's just a silly code Travis has us use for tasks we might do from home." He locked eyes with her. She wouldn't look away, but he sensed a tightness in her expression, like she was bracing for further questions. Instead, he let it go. He simply gave her a slow nod and turned back to his coffee. Inside, though, his suspicions hardened. That wasn't a casual code. It was shady, borderline insulting to his intelligence. Later that day, Jesse got in touch with Nelson, his longtime friend and a skilled cybersecurity consultant who freelanced for companies needing data protection. They met at a local sandwich shop near Nelson's office. Nelson greeted him with a firm handshake. "Been a while, man. You look stressed." Jesse ordered a turkey club, then sighed. "Nelson, I need your help, but it's personal. I think Julia might be, you know." Nelson didn't flinch. "Cheating?" A nod. "I'm not positive, but the red flags are everywhere. Late nights, suspicious phone calls, weird calendar appointments labeled T, D. She says it's an office code, but come on." Nelson tapped the table thoughtfully. "You want me to track her phone? Put some spyware on her laptop, that kind of thing?" Jesse exhaled slowly. "I want to be sure before I confront her. I don't want to wreck our marriage over a misunderstanding, but I also can't sit on my hands. You know how it is." Nelson nodded. "I get it. Let's do this right. I can install a discrete program on her devices. You'll get logs of her emails, location data, maybe even we can see if she's saving private files. But you gotta be careful. It's borderline illegal if done wrong." Jesse gave a half-hearted smile. "I'll take all the caution you recommend. Just help me confirm one way or the other." They spent an hour hashing out details, how Nelson would need brief private access to Julia's laptop, how they'd keep it hidden behind a generic application name, how Jesse would check logs daily. The lunch ended with Jesse feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread, as if he were stepping onto a path he'd never envisioned for himself. That evening, as Julia scrolled through her phone on the couch, Jesse pretended to be reading the newspaper. In reality, he was eyeing the chance to slip away with her laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen counter to charge. He made an excuse about heading to the garage to look for an old binder, carrying her laptop under his arm like it was his own. Once in the garage, he quietly closed the door. He texted Nelson, laptop in hand. Let's do this. Nelson replied fast. Great. Do a quick install. Follow the instructions I emailed you. If you hit a snag, call me. Jesse found the flash drive Nelson had given him. Hands trembling, he plugged it in. The screen flickered to life, asked for a password. Julia's login was already saved. He accessed it, found the X file, and double-clicked. It took 3 excruciating minutes, during which every noise from inside the house made Jesse jump. He worried Julia would walk in and see him hunched over her laptop. That confrontation would be ugly. But the install finished smoothly, the program hidden under a benign name, System Maintenance Package. He ejected the flash drive, closed the laptop, and quickly placed it back on the kitchen counter. When Julia asked later why he'd gone to the garage, he simply muttered, just rummaging for old receipts. She didn't question him further. A few days passed. The new system started feeding Jesse bits of data. He saw an unusual frequency of messages to a private email address, one not associated with Zephyr Consulting's official domain. The subject lines read vaguely, tonight's plan, client doc, late discussion. He also saw an interesting name in some of the email metadata, Travis Diamond. Jesse's pulse hammered, so they were using personal emails instead of company accounts. He didn't have full body text of those messages. Some were encrypted, or maybe they used an external service. But the pattern was there. Messages after 9 p.m. messages around midnight, subject lines that sounded more personal than professional. Meanwhile, at home, Julia alternated between affectionate and distant. She'd sometimes drape her arms around Jesse, acting normal, and then abruptly slip off to respond to an urgent text. One evening, right as Jesse was about to doze off, his phone lit up with an unexpected call from an unknown number. He answered groggily, only to hear faint static and a muffled voice. We just need to be careful. Then the call dropped. He realized quickly it was a pocket dial from Julia's phone. He recognized the last digits of her number. He scrambled out of bed, heart pounding. He tried calling back, but she didn't pick up. 10 minutes later, she came into the bedroom from the hallway, phone in hand, wearing a tense expression. You okay? He asked, trying to sound half asleep. She blinked, forcing a yawn. Yeah, just had to step out for a second. Work text. Go back to sleep. He closed his eyes, but inside his mind raced. That snippet, we just need to be careful _ played over and over. Careful about what? The affair? Their lies? He almost confronted her then, but something held him back. He wanted more than just a snippet. He wanted bulletproof evidence. His next step was to buy a few hidden microphones online, miniature devices that could blend into everyday objects. He placed one in the living room lamp, another in the car's dashboard. If Julia and Travis were planning rendezvous, he might catch a clue in their phone calls or face-to-face conversations. It felt surreal, like he'd become some amateur spy. Yet the more he thought about it, the more resolved he became. He refused to be the clueless husband who discovered the truth too late. If Julia was crossing a line, he would find out, and he would not forgive easily. While setting up the devices, he recalled the old detective shows he watched as a teen. The protagonist would say, better to have real evidence than rely on guesswork. That was exactly how Jesse felt, collected, methodical, calm, even in the face of what might be devastating heartbreak. Midweek, while doing their joint finances, Jesse noticed something peculiar. Julia had withdrawn nearly $500 in cash 3 times that month. She'd never mentioned it. Usually, they kept most spending on cards for easy tracking. When he asked her about it casually over dinner, she shrugged. Oh, groceries. Some new clothes, maybe. I can't remember. Groceries rarely top $500, and you usually just swipe a card, Jesse pointed out gently. She gave a dismissive laugh, swirling her fork in her salad. I don't know. Maybe I was shopping with Phoebe in places that don't take cards. Farmers markets, you know. They want cash. It's not a big deal. He nodded slowly, not wanting to push the issue further. But the lie was obvious. If she was giving Travis money or paying for things behind Jesse's back, that might explain the secrecy. A few days later, Phoebe's birthday party arrived. Jesse had hoped to skip it altogether, feeling drained and suspicious. But Julia insisted, saying they had to show up because Phoebe would be disappointed otherwise. The party took place at an upscale lounge downtown, moody lighting, live jazz in the corner, small tables scattered around. Jesse stuck near the bar, sipping soda water with lime, while Julia mingled with the crowd. That's when he noticed Travis slip into the room. The guy had a distinctive presence, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a tailored navy suit that screamed money. He scanned the party, locked eyes with Julia, and gave her a suggestive half-smile. Jesse's stomach twisted. Travis made his way through the crowd, greeting acquaintances with a polished grin. Julia excused herself from a conversation with Phoebe to approach him. They spoke in low voices, standing just inches apart. Jesse caught the flicker of a quick, warm touch from Travis to Julia's elbow. He was too far to overhear their conversation, but the body language said everything. She looked enamored, leaning slightly toward him, her expression softening. Travis, meanwhile, exuded confidence, like a man who owned the space around him. Jesse stayed put, not wanting to cause a scene, but internally it was like a volcano building pressure. He took slow sips of his drink, forcing himself to remain calm. At one point, Travis glanced Jesse's way, and their eyes met. Travis offered a polite nod, nothing more. Julia, flustered, quickly broke away and scurried toward Jesse. "Hey, you okay?" she asked, a tremor in her voice. He gave a tight smile. "Fine. Having fun?" She hesitated. "Yeah, it's good. Just Travis showed up unexpectedly. You know, Phoebe invited a bunch of people from the firm." "Right." She cleared her throat. "He won't stay long, I think." Jesse just nodded, letting her think he wasn't reading between the lines. In truth, he was reading entire paragraphs. On the drive home, the tension in the car was suffocating. Julia gripped the wheel a bit too tightly, staring straight ahead. Jesse finally spoke. "So what's going on with you and Travis?" She scoffed. "What do you mean?" "I saw how you two looked at each other tonight. The hush-hush conversation, that little touch." "I'm not blind, Julia." Her voice rose defensively. "We were talking about work, about the new client pitch. Seriously, you're making a big deal out of nothing." He clenched his jaw, inhaling. "I'm not imagining that you've been different lately, that you're always at the office or on the phone or withdrawing cash for who knows what. You think I don't notice these things?" She jerked the steering wheel slightly. "You're paranoid. Travis is my boss, for crying out loud. We're in a busy season. The cash? I told you, I've needed it for errands. Do you want me to produce receipts for every little thing I buy?" Jesse stared at her. The streetlight streaked across the windshield in rhythmic flashes. "I just want you to be honest with me," he said quietly. She fell silent, eyes glued to the road. When they pulled into the driveway, she got out of the car without a word. He followed her into the house, the door shutting behind them with a final click that sounded more ominous than it should have. She stomped upstairs. Jesse lingered in the living room. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak all swirled in him like a storm. But he forced himself to breathe, to remember the plan. Confronting her now without absolute proof would likely just lead to denial. And so, with trembling fingers, he checked the hidden microphone recordings. He was determined to glean more direct admissions or confirmations from Julia's calls. Over the next few nights, he pored over hours of audio. The living room mic caught mostly mundane phone calls, but around midnight on Tuesday, he struck gold. Julia had received a call from Travis, and they spoke in guarded tones. Julia, quiet. "Yes, he's asleep. No, he's not suspecting anything. Well, maybe a little, but I'm handling it. You want me to confirm Wednesday? Right, I'll say I have a late meeting, Travis. Calm down, I said I'll handle it." Jesse felt a surge of adrenaline. She was definitely lying about her whereabouts, and it was definitely with Travis. If there was any lingering doubt, it evaporated as he heard her hush. "Don't call me on the house phone. Text me next time." His blood ran cold. The little red recording light on his computer program told him he was capturing everything. So that was it. She was planning more late nights with Travis, ensuring Jesse wouldn't suspect. He closed his laptop gently, heart hammering. The evidence was piling up, and he knew a confrontation was inevitable. But he also knew if he wanted to truly corner them, he needed an undeniable smoking gun. Something told him, deep in his gut, that the ultimate betrayal would come soon, and he had to be ready. Jesse woke up the next morning with a cold, steely resolve he'd never felt before. He texted Nelson to arrange a meeting at a rundown tech warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place Nelson sometimes used for discreet freelance projects. The moment Jesse arrived, he saw Nelson waiting beside an old coffee vending machine wearing a battered hoodie. Nelson waved him over. "You look tired. Coffee?" Jesse sighed. "I'll take one." They fumbled with the coins. The ancient machine coughed out 2 cups of lukewarm, bitter coffee. Jesse took a sip and winced. "God, that's awful." Nelson shrugged. "Worst coffee in town, best place for quiet conversation. So, what's the next step?" Jesse ran a hand through his hair. "We have partial phone call evidence. I know she's meeting him late at night, lying about it. But I want more. Something undeniable. Something that even if she tries to weasel out, she can't." Nelson nodded, eyes sharp. "What about cameras?" Jesse inhaled slowly. "I was thinking about that. I want to install hidden cams in the house living room, bedroom, wherever she might bring him if I'm not around. Sounds like a plan. Could be pricey. Money's not the issue. I just want the best gear." Nelson sipped his coffee and grimaced. "All right, let's talk specifics." They discussed camera angles, battery lives, live streaming capabilities. Jesse wanted them all connected to a secure server so he could watch in real time if he had to. "I'm traveling next week on business. That's the perfect window for them to try something under my roof," Jesse said, voice full of quiet loathing. Nelson patted his shoulder. "You sure you can handle seeing that kind of footage? It might be brutal." Jesse paused, a bitter smile on his lips. "I'd rather deal with the brutal truth than live in a lie." Armed with a list of high-tech cameras and recorders, Jesse returned home, claiming he had new home security upgrades to install. Julia barely paid attention, buried in her phone. Over the next couple of nights, he systematically placed cameras in the bedroom smoke detector, the living room clock, and the ceiling fan of the spare room. He also discreetly wired a tiny microphone inside Julia's car, hidden beneath the dashboard. The final piece was the bedroom, a place he dreaded the thought of them using. He spent extra time positioning the camera to capture the entire bed area. He tested the angle, ensuring there were no blind spots. While drilling a small hole in the smoke detector casing, his hands shook. He imagined Travis and Julia in that bed, the sheets he shared with her for years. His face tightened with rage, but he forced it down, focusing on the next move. That Saturday, Jesse told Julia he might be traveling to Miami for a potential aerospace contract, a plausible cover story, since his business often dealt with out-of-state clients. She gave him a half-hearted hug. "I'll miss you, babe," she said, something false in her eyes. "When do you leave?" "Next Wednesday," he replied, feigning enthusiasm. "I'll be gone for 3 days, maybe 4. The client wants to finalize some specs in person." Julia pressed her lips together, managing a small smile. "That's short notice, but that's good. We could use that contract, right?" He nodded, burying his suspicion. "Yep. The more deals, the better." She was quiet a moment, fiddling with her phone. "So you'll be away for how long exactly?" "Probably 3 nights." Her face looked pensive, but she tried to hide it. "I'll just keep busy with work," she said softly. Jesse had never felt so certain. She was already planning how to meet Travis behind his back. He nodded. "Sure, you do what you need to do." A day later, as fate would have it, Jesse bumped into Travis at a local restaurant during lunch. Jesse had gone to pick up takeout. Travis was seated in a booth with 2 colleagues, wearing an expensive watch that gleamed under the overhead lights. Jesse recognized that watch. A few weeks back, he'd seen a charge on Julia's card for a pricey men's watch. He felt a flash of anger at the thought it might be this very one. Travis spotted him and stood, offering a broad smile. "Jesse Davis, right? Julia's husband?" Jesse forced a polite nod. "That's me." Travis extended a hand. "Travis Mitchell, good to finally talk. Julia's told me all about your business. Sounds interesting." Jesse accepted the handshake, feeling Travis's firm grip. The man had an air of arrogance about him. "Yeah, well, it keeps me busy. Congratulations on your expansions at Zephyr." Travis chuckled. "Thanks. We're going big places. You know, global expansions, high-level partnerships. Julia's been a big help with that. His eyes gleamed with a certain mocking quality, as if hinting that her help went beyond paperwork. Jesse resisted the urge to punch him. Instead, he plastered on a tight smile. She's always been a hard worker. Indeed, Travis replied, tone dripping with arrogance. Anyway, good to see you. We should grab a drink sometime, get to know each other better. Jesse nodded stiffly, stepping back. Sounds great. Have a good lunch. He walked away, bile rising in his throat. For all the times he'd wondered if he was imagining things, seeing Travis in person like this, with that watch shining on his wrist, made everything real. That same evening, while scanning their joint bank account logs, Jesse found another suspicious purchase, a couple $100s at a high-end lingerie store he knew Julia never normally shopped. She wasn't the type to splurge on that stuff. At least, not for him. He felt a slow burn in his chest. She'd never once worn new lingerie for their nights together in the last year or two. If she was dressing up for Travis, that hammered yet another nail into the coffin of their marriage. He typed a message to Nelson. She's buying more, possibly lingerie, the watch. This is insane. Nelson answered quickly. Keep a record. The more evidence, the better. This is definitely crossing the line. Jesse's mind whirled with possibilities. Was she planning a big night with Travis while he was in Miami? The scenario raked at his insides like rusted nails. But again, he forced himself to calm. He needed to be strategic, methodical, like preparing for a high-stakes business negotiation, except this time it was his marriage, his dignity on the line. His parents invited them over for dinner that weekend, but Julia bowed out last minute, claiming to need rest. Jesse went alone, feigning an excuse about her having a mild headache. While there, his father asked, Is everything okay with you two, son? She's been missing our gatherings a lot. Jesse's stomach clenched. She's just busy, he lied. Her new job's pretty demanding. His mother placed a gentle hand on his arm. If something's bothering you, you can talk to us. He mustered a tired smile. Thanks, Mom. Really, it's fine. The conversation shifted, but a sense of shame weighed on Jesse's chest. He was covering up for his wife's affair, or the strong possibility of it. He wasn't ready to tell his parents the truth. He was still clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, he'd unearth some explanation that didn't end with betrayal. Later that night, as he scrolled through Julia's laptop logs, he saw an email from Elaine Mitchell, Travis's wife. The subject line was, Strange Behavior. He couldn't open it, some encrypted email, but he saw the metadata. It was from Elaine to Travis, CCD to Julia. Interesting. Then, to his surprise, he got a text from an unknown number. We should talk about our spouses. We might share a common problem. EM. EM. Elaine Mitchell, presumably. Jesse's pulse sped. Did that mean Elaine suspected Travis was cheating, possibly with Julia? If Elaine was reaching out to him, it meant she was at least suspicious. He typed back carefully. I'm listening. Let me know when and where. A minute later. Tomorrow, Redwood Cafe, 11 a.m. Jesse stared at his phone, meeting the wife of his wife's potential lover. This was a can of worms. But if Elaine had intel, it could be valuable. The next morning, a Sunday, Jesse told Julia he was going to run errands and left early. He arrived at the Redwood Cafe, a small, cozy place with exposed brick walls and fresh pastries. Elaine Mitchell was already there, seated in a corner booth, sunglasses perched on her head, sipping a latte. She stood when he approached, offering a handshake. Jesse, I'm Elaine. Thanks for coming. He nodded, noticing she looked tense, eyes a bit red. No problem. I'm curious about what you want to discuss. They sat. Elaine glanced around as if making sure no one recognized her. Look, I'll be straight with you. I think Travis is cheating on me again. Again? Jesse asked quietly, raising an eyebrow. Elaine gave a bitter chuckle. Yeah, he's had a few indiscretions in the past. We patched things up, but lately he's been working late, getting secretive. I saw a suspicious text from your wife's number on his phone, and well, here we are. Jesse felt his heart sink. A confirmation, or at least a strong indication. I see. I've suspected something's up between Travis and Julia. That's why I came. Elaine sighed, stirring her latte. I know Travis's patterns. He loves the chase, and your wife, well, she's attractive, smart, probably an easy target. I'm not sure if she's the only one, but I suspect so. His mouth tightened. I appreciate your honesty. She reached into her purse, pulling out a folded sheet of paper. These are some of Travis's personal phone logs. I have access because we share a family plan. I highlighted the calls and texts to Julia's number. See how often they appear, especially late at night? He took the paper, scanning it quickly. Indeed, the logs matched the times he'd noticed Julia missing or lying about errands. It was more proof. Elaine lowered her voice. I'm not here to blackmail you or cause a scene. But I want to warn you, Travis isn't a good man. He'll use your wife until he's bored, then move on. If we pool our resources, maybe we can figure out how to handle this discreetly. Jesse felt a wave of conflicting emotions, gratitude for the evidence, anger at Travis's arrogance, and sadness that Julia was complicit. I appreciate that, Elaine, but I'm not sure how discreet I want to be. If they're betraying us... She swallowed. I get it, but I can't afford a messy public scandal right now. My family's inheritance depends on me not divorcing Travis openly. It's complicated. Jesse frowned. So you're basically stuck with him, but you want to keep him in check? She gave a sad nod. Yes. Look, if you need my help with anything, let me know. I just can't have a big blow-up. Understood? He paused, considering. Understood. Thanks for your time. They parted ways. Jesse left Redwood Cafe feeling like he'd just waded into deeper water. So Elaine was aware, but her motives were her own. He'd store that tidbit for later. He brought all this info to Nelson that afternoon, summarizing the cafe meeting. Nelson's eyes widened. Travis is a serial cheater. Elaine can't divorce him publicly. She's basically saying she'd assist you if needed. Jesse shrugged. She's more about damage control, but yes, she has access to Travis's finances, phone record stuff that could help me. Nelson rubbed his chin. Are you thinking of some kind of big confrontation? Or do you want to keep building evidence? Jesse's gaze hardened. I need undeniable proof of them actually hooking up. In my house, maybe. Then I'll decide how to proceed. Nelson nodded. The cameras are up, right? So if they do something while you're gone, you'll have it on video. Exactly. I'll finalize the trap by leaving next Wednesday. I'll park my car at the airport, then slip back into town, watch everything from a motel. Nelson gave a low whistle. Man, that's intense. Are you sure you're ready to see that footage? It'll break your heart. Jesse exhaled a shaky breath. Better to break my heart with the truth than live in a lie. Once I have proof, I'll know exactly how to hit back. Trust me, I'm done being the nice guy. As the week progressed, Julia seemed both anxious and excited, often texting in corners, making calls with hushed tones. Jesse played the role of the oblivious husband, telling her details about his Miami trip. He even fabricated client names, typed up fake itineraries, and left them on the kitchen counter for her to see. By Tuesday night, the stage was set. Jesse packed a suitcase, placing a few shirts and a laptop inside for authenticity. He kissed Julia goodbye, ignoring the pang in his chest when she half smiled and said, I'll miss you. In his mind, the trap was primed. He'd soon witness the ultimate truth, no matter how gut-wrenching. Wednesday morning dawned with a bright sky. Jesse loaded his suitcase into his SUV, gave Julia a perfunctory kiss on the cheek, and drove off as if heading to the airport. He sent her a selfie from outside Terminal C, just to sell the ruse. In reality, he'd booked a room at a no-frills motel near the city's edge. Once checked in, he set up his laptop, connected to the hidden camera feeds, and waited. The first few hours showed Julia going about normal tasks, checking emails in the living room, taking a call in the kitchen, nothing suspicious. But by mid-afternoon, she changed into a sleek black dress, far more glamorous than her usual work attire. Jesse's heart pounded. This was it, the calm before the storm. Around 5 p.m., the doorbell feed on the living room camera showed Travis stepping inside, dressed in a tailored suit, sporting that fancy watch. He carried a bottle of wine and wore a smug grin. Jesse's stomach twisted in rage at the sight of him in his home, with his wife. On the screen, Julia greeted him with a warm smile, leaned in, pressed a quick kiss to his lips. Jesse's vision blurred momentarily. He forced himself to watch. He had to. Travis scanned the living room, noticing Jesse's framed family photos on the mantel. A faint smirk touched his face, as if relishing the conquest. They chatted for a bit, inaudible from that camera's angle, so Jesse switched to the living room mic feed. Julia, softly. He's gone till Friday at least. No worries. Travis. Good. I missed you. He stepped closer, sliding an arm around her waist. She giggled. Jesse's hands balled into fists. Travis popped the wine open, poured 2 glasses. They toasted to something Jesse couldn't quite catch, but likely their stolen moments. Then, with a playful tug, Travis led Julia toward the hallway that went to the bedroom. Jesse clenched his teeth. This was it. He switched the feed to the bedroom camera, eyes glued to the laptop screen. At first, the bedroom footage showed them entering, setting their wine glasses on the dresser. Julia joked about the color of the bedding, something Jesse couldn't make out. Then she slipped off her black dress, revealing brand-new lingerie lacy, dark red, the kind Jesse had never seen on her. A wave of nausea hit him. He coughed, leaning forward, but forced himself to keep his gaze on the screen. Travis eyed her hungrily. "Damn, look at you," he murmured. They kissed, deeply, passionately. Jesse's stomach lurched, and he fought the urge to close the laptop and vomit. This was more graphic than he imagined, a direct assault on his senses. He reached for a bottle of water, hand shaking. All the while, the camera continued to record every embrace, every intimate word. At one point, Travis murmured, "Your husband must be such a clueless fool," and Julia let out a light laugh, hooking her arms around his neck. Julia, "He's sweet, just boring, and I can't risk leaving him yet. He pays all the bills, you know." Jesse's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. It wasn't just the physical act, it was the utter disregard for him, the mockery. Travis, "You deserve excitement, baby. Not some hardware salesman. I make millions, you know." He cackled. Julia kissed him again. Jesse felt a swirl of hatred unlike anything he'd experienced. But the deeper the pain, the stronger his resolve grew. He would not let them walk away unscathed. After about an hour, he couldn't stomach more. He fast-forwarded through the next 20 minutes, saw them eventually getting dressed. The betrayal was undeniable. He paused the footage, took a few shaky breaths, and began saving it. Multiple backups onto external drives, a secure cloud account. He knew how fragile digital evidence could be. He needed redundancies. As he documented the date and timestamps, his phone buzzed. A message from Julia. "Hey, babe, just checking in. Hope your flight went well. Miss you already. 3 inches the gall of it." Jesse's lips curled in a bitter smile. She had the nerve to text him sweet nothings while Travis was literally in their marital bed. He typed a short reply. "All good. Talk soon." His heart pounded. Soon, indeed. He was planning a confrontation that would shake both their worlds. Once Travis left, around 7 p.m., Julia flitted around the house, presumably cleaning up any signs of their encounter. Jesse felt his eyes burn with unshed tears. Her casual demeanor hammered home how routine this had become. She called Travis later, and from the audio feed, Jesse caught snippets like, "Tonight was amazing, and we'll see if we can do it again before he's back." A cold fury gripped Jesse. They were planning to meet again tomorrow. Perfect. Let them. He'd be ready. He dialed Nelson. "It's confirmed. I have the footage." Nelson's voice was grim. "I'm sorry, man. That's rough. You gonna confront them now?" "Not yet," Jesse said, chest tight. "I'll wait for their next rendezvous. I want enough evidence to bury them if I have to." That night, alone in the motel's dingy room, Jesse hardly slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he pictured Travis's hands on Julia, Julia's smile, the lingerie. He replayed the humiliating lines about him being boring or a clueless fool. By dawn, he was exhausted but resolute. He had what he needed to blow their lies apart. Yet a part of him wanted to push further, to ensure he had maximum leverage. He'd seen the cruelty in their words, Travis calling him a small-time hardware guy, Julia mocking him. If they thought he was a clueless fool, he'd prove them wrong in the most dramatic way possible. The following afternoon, Julia left for work around lunchtime. The camera in her car picked up some phone chatter. Julia. "Yes, he's still in Miami, so come by tonight. I'll open a bottle of champagne, sure. 8 p.m. works. See you then, Travis." That sealed it. They were planning a second meetup in the same week. Jesse readied himself for the final sting. He texted Nelson to be on standby. He told him the plan. He would stealthily return to the house on a rented motorcycle so no one recognized his car. He'd observe them from inside, let them start their twisted game, then spring his trap. Nelson's reply was short. "Be careful, man." Jesse felt a dark grin form. He had no intention of being careful. He wanted them to feel fear, to understand just who they had underestimated. By 7 p.m., Jesse was at the motel, all gear set. He logged into the cameras. Sure enough, Travis arrived at 8 sharp, brandishing a fancy gift bag, probably more trinkets for Julia. They toasted again in the living room, flirted. Jesse zipped up a small duffel bag containing a heavy-duty baton and specialized shotgun shells he'd purchased non-lethal, but loaded with painful irritants. He'd read about them online, developed for riot control. Switching off the camera feed, he left the motel room, hopped on the rented motorcycle, and sped into the night. He parked several blocks away from his own house, hidden from streetlights, then crept through the dark toward the back door. His heart thundered. Adrenaline surged. This was a man on a mission to catch them red-handed, to deliver the raw consequences they deserved. Jesse stood outside his dark house, the late-night air sharp against his skin. The confrontation he'd just executed, explosive, violent, and humiliating for Travis, left him with a strange adrenaline high. In the immediate aftermath, he'd threatened both Travis and Julia, warning them to concoct a story about a home intruder. The moment he walked away, baton in one hand, specialized shotgun in the other, their wide-eyed terror practically etched into his memory, he realized there was no turning back. His mind churned with what came next. He had inflicted physical and psychological damage on Travis, no small matter. With one false step, the entire incident could blow up in his face. But Jesse had prepared meticulously, from forging an airtight alibi at his office to making sure local security cameras wouldn't place him at the scene. Breathing heavily, he approached a nondescript rental car parked discreetly down the street. After stashing his baton and shotgun shells in the trunk, he slid into the driver's seat and glanced once more at the dimly lit silhouette of his suburban home. He allowed himself a final moment to imagine Travis flailing on the bedroom floor, cursing, Julia screaming, the entire scene drenched in a savage inevitability. They had done him wrong. This was their consequence. He started the ignition, driving slowly, carefully, no squealing tires or reckless maneuvers. The world outside was quiet, as though it had no idea a man's life had just been shattered within those suburban walls. Jesse navigated side streets until he hit the main road, eventually pulling into a 24-hour gas station to breathe, to think, to let the adrenaline settle. Inside the car, his phone buzzed with a text from Nelson. "Nelson, everything okay? Any trouble?" Jesse typed back with steady fingers. "Jesse, handled. I'll explain soon. Wait for my call." He stared at the screen, inhaling until the tightness in his chest loosened. He had threatened them both, Travis specifically to pay millions or face utter ruin, and Julia to follow along with the cover story. The plan had only begun. He headed to his office, where he'd left his SUV in the lot to maintain his alibi. It was nearly 10 p.m. by the time he arrived, but that suited him. A handful of employees in IT were working late on a software upgrade for Davis Aero Parts. They greeted him with casual nods as he strolled in, acting as though he'd been in his private office all evening. He locked himself in that office, ignoring the blinking emails on his desktop. Settling into the leather chair behind a broad mahogany desk, he allowed himself a moment to reflect on the final confrontation details. He'd fired a specialized shotgun round into Travis's shoulder, non-lethal but laced with painful irritants. Travis might need medical attention. Julia had been naked, screaming, trying to shield herself with a bedsheet. Her pleas, "I still love you, please don't do anything crazy," rang hollow in Jesse's ears. He had forced them to lie about it to the authorities, referencing the hours of compiled video evidence that would leak if they defied him. His phone buzzed again, this time a call from Nelson. "Talk to me," Jesse said in a low voice. "You sure you're in the clear?" Nelson asked, worry apparent. "You attacked the guy with a gun. That's assault, man." Jesse twirled a pen between his fingers. "He doesn't dare talk. I have every second of him screwing my wife on camera. I also have some financial dirt on him from Elaine. If he tries anything, I'll blow up his whole world. He'll keep quiet." A pause. "And your wife?" Jesse couldn't keep the bitterness out of his voice. She'll fall in line too. She knows I can and will expose her to her family, her friends, everyone. She's not stupid. Nelson let out a slow exhale. All right, so how do you want to proceed with the rest of your plan? Jesse leaned back, his eyes drawn to the array of family photos on his desk vacations with Julia, smiling date-night pictures, anniversaries. The frames now felt like mockeries of a life that never truly existed. I intend to make sure Travis pays me a hefty sum in hush money for the assault, as well as for the heartbreak he caused me, and Julia's going to sign the divorce papers under my terms. Then I vanish from that entire circle, free and clear. I see. So the next steps are to lock it down legally, Jesse interrupted. I'm meeting my attorney tomorrow. Once I have the official divorce in motion, I'll handle Travis's payment demands. Nelson's voice came through, steady and supportive. I'm with you, man. Just be cautious. People do stupid things when they're cornered. Hanging up, Jesse breathed deeply, eyes fixed on the photo of himself and Julia from their 5th wedding anniversary. She was beaming in a white sundress, hair caught by an ocean breeze in Hawaii. Jesse traced the edge of the frame. That woman, was she gone forever? Or had she never existed? Jesse spent half the night clearing the rest of the surveillance equipment from the house. Around midnight, after feigning a normal departure from his office, he returned to the suburban street, confident that neither Julia nor Travis would be in the house now. For good measure, he'd parked a few blocks away and slipped through the backyard, wearing gloves and a dark jacket. The cameras, mics, and recorders all needed to be gone. He methodically unscrewed hidden lenses from smoke detectors, retrieved tiny audio bugs from behind wall art, and carefully removed the main server hidden in the attic. Each device, each vantage point, he'd personally installed over the past weeks. Now, they had served their purpose. He couldn't risk any stray evidence tying him to the recordings if the police sniffed around. As he worked, the hush of the empty house was surreal. Memories floated through each room. Julia cooking dinner at the stove, Julia laughing at comedic reality shows in the living room, Julia entwined with him in the bedroom. In mere hours, those memories had become toxic illusions. He paused at the threshold of the bedroom, eyes scanning the disheveled sheets, the faint metallic smell of spilled irritant from the shotgun round, a testament to the brutality unleashed tonight. He wanted to be done with this place, to bury its ghosts. For now, though, he methodically pried the last microcamera from the bedroom lamp, stuffing it in his bag. The final step, checking that no detail was overlooked. At about 2 a.m., he left the house with everything stored in a black duffel bag. He felt lighter somehow, as if physically removing the tools of surveillance also lifted a burden. But the heaviest burdens, his shattered trust, his fury, remained lodged in his heart. He quickly drove off, ignoring the pang of sorrow as he realized he'd never again see this house the same way. It was only a battlefield now, with shell casings and broken illusions. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Travis endured a wave of agony. He slumped on a gurney, cradling his bandaged shoulder, a pounding headache throbbing from the baton blow. Julia stood beside him, frantic, hair hastily pulled into a ponytail, face streaked with tears. A nurse was cleaning the wounds, eyes suspicious at their disjointed explanations. The official story they gave was that Travis had been assaulted by an unknown intruder who broke in, fired some kind of non-lethal round, then fled. Julia claimed she was in the bathroom when she heard the shot and found Travis on the bedroom floor. Travis clenched his teeth against the pain, hating the vulnerability. "Just fix me up," he growled at the nurse. "I'll handle the rest." Julia glanced around, spotting a pair of police officers near the ER entrance. Her breath caught. She wanted to run, to vanish. The memory of Jesse's furious eyes, that calm, savage tone. "If either of you tries to implicate me, I'll ruin your lives and let everyone know exactly how you two betrayed me." She felt cold chills, remembering the final threat, the absolute conviction in his voice. Travis hissed as the nurse applied disinfectant to the shoulder wound. "This stings like a bastard," he muttered. "God damn it, that maniac." She offered him a sympathetic but exasperated look. "Sir, you might have deeper tissue injury. We need to run a quick scan. Are you sure there's no chance you know who attacked you?" Travis forced a weak laugh. "No idea. Random burglary. The guy was wearing a ski mask." His eyes flicked to Julia. They both wore the same rehearsed expression: fear, confusion, the facade they'd decided on in the frantic minutes after Jesse left. One of the police officers approached, hand resting lightly on his duty belt. "I'm Officer Daniels. Mind if we ask a few questions?" Julia's stomach knotted. She and Travis had no choice but to talk, carefully. They repeated the story about an intruder, how the intruder presumably got spooked and fled. No, they didn't get a good look at him. No, there was nothing stolen. Maybe he was interrupted. Yes, they definitely want the police to investigate. The usual disclaimers. She could see the skepticism in Daniel's eyes, especially about the single ballistic round that seemed specialized. Travis forced a trembling cough to appear more traumatized. The officer took notes, left them with his card, and said they'd follow up. As the officer left, Travis shot Julia a glare. "If your husband tries anything else, I'll destroy him." Julia rubbed her arms, voice trembling. "Don't. We can't risk it. He has all that footage, remember? He threatened to show your partners, your wife, everyone." Travis rolled his eyes. "I'll figure something out." But his bravado was weaker than usual. The pain in his shoulder was an unwelcome reminder of how real Jesse's threats could be. Julia slumped into a plastic chair. She realized that any illusions of a future with Travis were shattered. She'd never seen him so powerless, so thoroughly outmaneuvered. And the reality that she'd betrayed Jesse, her husband, the man who once cherished her, closed in on her like a vice. She felt tears slip down her face, a mixture of fear, regret, and the harsh truth that her life had just imploded. Back in his office the next morning, Jesse typed out a bullet point list of tasks. Lawyer consultation. Confirm the divorce strategy. Financial leverage. Use the recorded evidence Elaine's financial tips about Travis's offshore accounts. House sale, possibly list the home quickly or at least threaten it. Bribe, hush money, $2 million from Travis. Finalize control. Ensure Julia has minimal claim to marital assets. He had never felt so calculating, so cold, but he had also never felt so thoroughly betrayed. Leaning forward, he scrolled through messages from Elaine, which were short and cryptic. She simply asked if he was okay and to keep her updated. She obviously wanted to avoid her own meltdown with Travis. Jesse would respond to her soon, but first he needed to see his attorney, at exactly 9 a.m. Jesse walked into the plush downtown office of Garcia and Rhodes Law Group, a mid-sized firm specializing in high-asset divorces. He was introduced to Tara Garcia, an efficient woman in her early 40s with a keen gaze. She invited him into a private conference room with glass walls, which offered a sweeping view of the city below. "Mr. Davis, good to meet you," she said, gesturing for him to sit. "Let's talk about your situation." He settled into a leather chair, carefully avoiding an outpouring of raw emotion. "I want to file for divorce from my wife, Julia Davis, on grounds of adultery. I have video evidence of her affair." Tara didn't blink. She'd likely handled similar cases. "All right. Before we dive into the specifics, can you give me an overview of your joint assets? Any prenuptial agreement?" Jesse explained that they'd married young and never signed a prenup. Over the years, his business flourished, and they'd accumulated a comfortable net worth: the house, a few rental properties, retirement accounts, stocks. All in all, a few million, enough that a normal no-fault divorce could get complicated. Tara tapped a pen against her notes. "If you can prove she committed adultery, you might gain leverage in negotiations. However, keep in mind that in many states, infidelity doesn't necessarily wipe out spousal entitlements. We can use it as a bargaining chip, though." He nodded. "I plan to propose a settlement that leaves her with minimal assets. She can keep a small portion, but I want to ensure she's severely limited. I also want to keep the marital home or sell it on my terms." Tara studied him, arching an eyebrow. "That's quite aggressive." "She deserves it," Jesse said, voice low. "I've caught her in bed with another man in our home repeatedly. I'm done being taken for a fool." The attorney didn't flinch. "I'll draft a petition for divorce, highlight fault-based grounds, and we can serve her with the papers. Then we'll see if she tries to contest. Your evidence will make her position precarious." Jesse exhaled, feeling a kernel of satisfaction. "One more thing. This man she cheated with, he owes me something too." Tara tilted her head. Do you want to pursue legal action against him? He hesitated. Not exactly. Let's just say I have means to pressure him financially. But if he tries to fight, I might need your help dealing with potential lawsuits or police involvement. Tara nodded. Understood. We'll craft a strategy. Just be cautious. Using blackmail or extortion is illegal, so we have to keep everything on the right side of the line. Jesse offered a humorless grin. I'll stay within the lines, but trust me, he's the last person to want a legal circus. He signed retainer documents, then left with a sense of grim purpose. The wheels were in motion. Julia would soon receive the official blow that would obliterate any illusions of salvaging their marriage. Mid-afternoon found Jesse in his private office at Davis Aeroparts, attempting to focus on actual business for a change. A supply chain glitch threatened to delay a major shipment to a new aviation client. He had to make calls to expedite solutions, calm the client's nerves, and keep day-to-day operations running. Despite the personal hurricane in his life, he refused to let his company falter. He was in the midst of a phone conference when his personal cell phone lit up with Julia's name. He ignored it. She tried again, then again. He let it ring, focusing on the client call. When he was done, he checked the voicemails, heart thumping in a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Julia's first voicemail was shaky. Jesse, please pick up. I need to talk. I'm so sorry. I don't even know where to start. Travis is in the hospital and I'm just scared. Please call me. He sneered, not out of glee but out of raw pain. Where was her remorse before? Probably tangled in Travis's arms. The next voicemail was more urgent. We're telling the police it was a break-in, but they keep asking questions. I don't want you to be in trouble. Can we please just talk this through? I love you, I swear. Her words hammered at him. I love you. The same phrase she'd whispered to Travis on camera. His grip on the phone tightened. Instead of calling back, he sent her a single text. Jesse, speak to my lawyer for anything important. I have nothing to say to you. He envisioned her reaction devastated, maybe frantic. Good. Let her stew. Let her realize how thoroughly she'd destroyed the last vestiges of trust. That evening, he met Nelson at a small bar downtown the Rusty Nail, a dimly lit place that specialized in craft beers and hush conversation. They slid into a corner booth away from prying eyes. Nelson greeted him with a worried nod. So, how's the aftermath? Jesse snorted softly. Travis ended up in the hospital. Julia is begging me to talk. The police are skeptical, but they have no evidence against me. I told them to claim a random burglary. Nelson sipped his beer, then set it down. Are you worried about Travis retaliating? Men with money and connections can do crazy things. Leaning forward, Jesse's voice dropped to a near whisper. I have all the audio, the video of him and Julia. Elaine also gave me incriminating documents about his offshore accounts and some tax evasion. He'll think twice before messing with me. He paused, swirling the beer in his glass. Honestly, I want him to try something. I've spent nights dreaming about how to bury him further if he does. Nelson's eyebrows rose. This is all so intense. I remember you as the guy who'd do anything to avoid drama. A bittersweet laugh escaped Jesse's lips. We all have a limit, Nelson. They crossed mine. He scanned the bar, noticing a group of rowdy college students by the dartboard. Anyway, I'll finalize the divorce. Then I'll demand a hefty hush payment from Travis or threaten to release the footage to his wife, his partners, the media. That's the plan. Nelson took another drink. Just be cautious. Blackmail is a legal minefield. Believe me, Jesse said, voice tight. I've thought this through. If anything, I might present it as a settlement money in exchange for my non-disclosure agreement. Perfectly legal if worded right. Nelson exhaled slowly. All right, just watch your back. Jesse nodded. He was simultaneously exhausted and wired, like a man who'd been running on adrenaline for days. It occurred to him that no matter how successful his revenge, the emotional toll was permanent, but that was a problem for later. Right now, the next steps were clear. Elaine Mitchell reached out once more, this time asking to meet in person. Jesse hesitated but eventually agreed, choosing a high-end cafe near the financial district. Arriving a few minutes early, he picked a table in the corner, scanning the room for any potential eavesdroppers. He felt almost like a spy, constantly suspicious. Elaine swept in wearing a designer pantsuit, hair styled in a sleek bun, exuding the polished aura of a wealthy socialite. She ordered a cappuccino and sat across from him, crossing her legs gracefully. "How's Travis?" Jessie asked, voice guarded. Elaine gave a humorless half-smile. "Recovering from a concussion and a nasty shoulder wound. He claims it was a random intruder, but I know you were involved. He's been cagey about details." Jessie leaned back. "Is that going to be a problem for you?" She sipped her cappuccino. "Not necessarily. I want to keep up appearances, and if Travis is too humiliated to press charges or tell the truth, that suits me just fine." She paused, eyes flicking to Jessie's. "He's furious, though. He mumbled something about sending a message to you." A flicker of tension shot through Jessie's chest. "If he tries anything, I'll release every bit of evidence I have, including details of his offshore accounts that you gave me." Elaine raised her hands in a placating gesture. "I'm not threatening you, I'm just the messenger. And trust me, I won't let him do anything that might blow back on me. I need him docile enough to maintain my own financial security." Jessie studied her carefully. "So why did you ask to meet?" She glanced at the other patrons, leaning in with a conspiratorial tone. "I need to ensure you keep my name out of any public fiasco. If you do release footage or files, do not implicate me. I've worked too hard to preserve certain interests." His lips twitched in a cold smirk. "Fair enough. As long as you don't sabotage me, I have no reason to drag you into it." Elaine exhaled, tension easing from her shoulders. "Good. Then let me offer some intel. Travis's big merger deal is still on track, but it hinges on him looking stable to his firm's partners. If news of an affair or a violent confrontation leaks, the deal might fall through. Meaning I have maximum leverage right now," Jessie said, nodding. "Yes, he might pay a lot to keep you silent. If you play it right, you could get $1 million or $2 million, possibly more, depending on how desperate he is." Jessie's eyes glinted. "That's exactly what I plan to do." Elaine gazed at him with a curious tilt of her head. "You're a different man than the one Julia married, I bet." He offered no denial, simply a vague shrug. "We all change under pressure." They parted on that note. Two people who'd become entangled by the same cheating man, each using the other for personal gain. Jessie left the cafe certain that Elaine was no ally, but at least she was a predictable factor in this unfolding drama. 2 days later, at Jessie's direction, his attorney officially served Julia with divorce papers. She was at their house still living there while Jessie stayed at a small rented condo across town. A process server knocked on the door and handed her the packet, which laid out fault-based divorce due to adultery, requested spousal support from her, unlikely to succeed in practical terms but an aggressive move, and gave a clear warning about property settlement. Julia called Jessie in tears, but he let it go to voicemail again. He listened, heart stony. "Jessie, I got the papers. I deserve this, I know, but please, can we just talk once? I need to see you. I need to explain. It's not, I'm so sorry. Just please don't cut me off." He deleted the voicemail. Her pleas meant nothing now. She made her choice the moment she let Travis into their bed, her arms, her heart. Over the next hour, she texted him frantically, wanting to negotiate, promising to break it off with Travis. He ignored them all. Meanwhile, at the same hour, Travis lay in bed at the hospital, cursing under his breath at emails from his firm's partners, who were pressing him for updates on the merger negotiations. He texted Julia only once. "Travis, we need to talk. This can't go on." Julia replied, "Julia, what do you mean? Are you cutting me off?" No answer. Travis stared at the phone, a swirl of resentment and pain. He felt like a wounded animal, cornered. The hospital staff had done their best, but he faced a long recovery, and the brand of victim of a weird home invasion hung over him like a specter. He'd glimpsed the pitying looks from coworkers. Worse still was the scorching memory of Jessie standing over him with that gun, so confident, so unstoppable. In the past, Travis had always called the shots wealthy, admired, used to controlling everyone around him. That was gone now, and it filled him with a simmering rage. Jessie sensed that the next few days were critical. He made sure to inform his attorney about everything except the full extent of his physical assault. He framed it as, I suspect Travis might want to pay me off to avoid scandal, and I'm open to a settlement if it ensures no public claims on either side. By the time he wrapped up the conversation with Tara, it was late afternoon. Sitting in the quiet of his temporary condo, an unsettling calm overcame him. He realized he'd systematically dismantled his own marriage and threatened a man's life. There was a numbness creeping in, as though his own conscience was shutting down to protect him. He typed out an email to Travis's personal account, subject line, "Settlement discussion." The body was brief, chilling. "I have all the recordings and evidence of your affair with Julia. I also have knowledge of your firm's pending merger and how a scandal could ruin it. If you wish to resolve this discreetly, transfer $2 million to the attached account by Friday. In return, I will not release evidence of your affair or your financial improprieties to your wife, your partners, or the authorities. Further retaliation on your part will void this arrangement." We both know who won that night. He hit send, heart thudding. There it was. The direct blackmail, or settlement. A move that could backfire if Travis tried to call his bluff. But Jesse had no illusions. Travis, forced into a corner, would likely grumble and pay up if only to salvage his merger and keep Elaine placated. The real question was whether Travis's pride would push him to do something reckless first. Jesse rose, poured himself a stiff bourbon, and stared out the condo's window. City lights glittered across the horizon. In that reflection, he barely recognized himself a man consumed by revenge, forging a new path in the dark. He drank deeply, letting the burn settle in his gut. The next few weeks would decide everything. Thursday arrived with a sense of grim anticipation. Jesse woke in the condo's modest bedroom, checking his phone for any updates from Travis or Julia. Unsurprisingly, Travis had not responded to the settlement email. Instead, Jesse found new messages from an unknown number. Unknown. "You think this ends with money? Watch yourself." Jesse stared, adrenaline spiking. Travis had apparently chosen to issue veiled threats from a burner phone. Or maybe it was one of Travis's hired goons. This was exactly what Jesse had steeled himself for. He typed a reply with a calm that belied his racing heart. "Jesse, keep pushing and I'll send everything to your partners Elaine and the media. You have until Friday." He hit send, then set the phone aside, mouth pressed into a thin line. If Travis wanted a battle, Jesse was more than ready. He had the upper hand, but he also knew cornered men often lash out violently. Across town, Travis sat in a borrowed luxury condo, a safe haven that Elaine controlled for emergency getaways. He'd demanded to be discharged from the hospital that morning, insisting he could recover on his own. His shoulder was wrapped, and every movement sent jolts of pain through him, a constant reminder of the savage beating. A private nurse hovered at the edges, but Travis dismissed her to the living room. He glared at his phone, reading Jesse's ultimatum for the 5th time. A swirl of fury tightened his chest. Paying Jesse $2 million was feasible. He had the funds, especially once the merger concluded. But the humiliation of it enraged him more than the money itself. And the knowledge that Jesse could ruin his entire career with a single leak made Travis's skin crawl. He considered calling the police, spinning a tale about blackmail. But that would risk the affair going public, plus the scrutiny of his offshore accounts. His partners would drop him in a heartbeat. Elaine would have the perfect excuse to claim a lion's share of their assets in any subsequent divorce, and public humiliation would be total. He needed a different option, something that neutralized Jesse without bringing the scandal to light. He tapped his phone, searching for a contact labeled Pharaoh. "We need to meet. Urgent matter. You still in the business of solving problems quietly?" Yes, Travis was considering a darker route, hiring men to handle Jesse, ensuring he stayed quiet for good. He'd never stooped to violence before. Not like this. But Jesse had shattered all illusions of civility by literally shooting him in the shoulder. If that bastard wants war, I'll give it to him, Travis thought, ignoring the uneasy flicker in his gut. That afternoon, Julia was alone in the marital house, pacing the living room floor, tears dried on her cheeks. She clutched the divorce papers in one hand, her phone in the other, rereading Jesse's cold text. "Speak to my lawyer for anything important. I have nothing to say to you." Every inch of her body ached with regret. The day she'd first flirted back with Travis seemed a lifetime ago. She remembered the initial spark she'd felt gratitude that someone so powerful found her attractive. Maybe it fed her ego, or she thought it would open career doors. Now, that decision had escalated into the total destruction of her life. Her parents were calling her repeatedly, worried after hearing from neighbors about something violent at her house. Phoebe, her best friend, also left frantic messages. "Julia, what the hell is going on? I heard you had some break-in and Travis was hurt. Are you okay? Call me back." Julia felt paralyzed. She didn't know how to explain her situation. She couldn't reveal that her husband had discovered the affair and nearly killed Travis, or that she had systematically lied, betrayed, and humiliated Jesse. Everyone would despise her. A knock on the door jolted her. Heart hammering, she peered through the window to see Phoebe standing there, face etched with worry. With no better plan, Julia let her in. Phoebe rushed forward, arms open for a hug. "Oh my God, are you all right? I've been calling non-stop." Julia collapsed into her arms, sobbing. "It's a disaster. Everything's ruined. Jesse, oh God." Phoebe rubbed her back in soothing circles. "Hey, slow down. Tell me what happened. People are saying Travis was assaulted some break-in at your house?" Julia sniffed, stepping back. "That's the story we told the cops," she whispered, voice trembling. "But it's not the truth. Jesse found out about me and Travis. He attacked him, shot him with some weird ammo, threatened us not to involve the police." Phoebe's eyes went wide. "You, Travis, are you saying you cheated on Jesse with your boss?" Julia's tears renewed, but she forced a nod. The shame tasted bitter. "I never meant I just got swept up. Travis was so charismatic I felt like I was missing something in my marriage. But now look what's happened." Shaking her head, Phoebe paced around, anger creeping into her expression. "Julia, how could you do that to Jesse? He adores you, adored you. This is insane." Julia sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I know. I messed up. And now Jesse's divorcing me. He hates me. He wants to ruin me financially. I'm losing everything." Phoebe took a shaky breath, fighting her own shock and disappointment. "Is there any chance you can fix it? If you apologize, beg for forgiveness." She laughed hollowly. "Forgiveness?" I saw his eyes, Phoebe. There's nothing left in them except hatred. I don't blame him." They sat in heavy silence, Phoebe's mind racing. She'd always seen Julia and Jesse as the stable couple in their friend group, maybe a bit routine, but loving. Now the illusion was shattered. She glanced at the bandage on Julia's forearm, noticing a bruise from the chaos. "What about Travis? Is he pressuring you to keep quiet?" Julia wiped her cheeks. "We're both under Jesse's control now. He threatened to release all the footage if we cross him. Travis is furious but also scared. I don't even know what to do, Phoebe." Phoebe exhaled, her own heartbreak evident. She loved them both as friends, yet she couldn't condone what Julia had done. I think you need to talk to an attorney. Maybe see if you can negotiate a less brutal settlement with Jesse. But you have to face that your marriage might be over." Julia just nodded, tears streaming. The realization was as crushing as the betrayal itself. Night fell as Jesse sat in front of his laptop, analyzing the day's developments. No direct response from Travis about the $2 million demand, except that cryptic threat from a burner phone. It was enough to set Jesse on edge, so he double-checked the security measures around his new condo, a sturdy deadbolt, a personal firearm in a locked safe for emergencies, and a discreet ring camera on the door. He wasn't naive. Travis might try to strike back. He poured himself a single malt scotch, letting the smoky flavor coat his tongue as he reviewed his next steps. Finalize the divorce, push Travis to pay up or face utter ruin, and re-establish some sense of normalcy for his business. He also had to brace for potential sabotage, given Travis's wealth and shady connections. His phone buzzed a text from Elaine. "Elaine, he's talking to someone about handling the problem. Be careful." Jesse's chest tightened, so Travis was planning a violent move, possibly hiring muscle. He typed a quick reply. "Jesse, thanks. I have my own precautions in place." He stared at the message, a swirl of gratitude and suspicion about Elaine. On one hand, she was tipping him off. On the other, she was presumably trying to protect her own interests. Jesse sighed, draining the rest of his drink. This entire scenario felt like a twisted crime noir, except it was his real life, and he was playing the anti-hero. 2 days crawled by without direct confrontation. Julia frantically tried to contact Jesse. Travis stewed in his condo, and Jesse watched from the sidelines. On Friday morning, the deadline for Travis to pay the $2 million arrived. Jesse checked the offshore account number he'd provided, refreshing the page multiple times. No deposit. His jaw clenched. Travis was calling his bluff. By midday, still no sign of the money. Jesse debated sending a final warning, but decided to wait. He had already told Travis what would happen if he didn't comply. Maybe by the end of the day, the wire transfer would appear. Sure enough, at around 3 p.m., an alert popped on his phone from the bank. He opened the app with mounting excitement. Was Travis caving? The deposit was only $250,000, a fraction of the demand, a mocking sum. There was also a note attached in the wire details. We'll talk about the rest. TM. A rush of anger flooded Jesse. Travis was toying with him, paying just enough to say, "I'm open to discussing, but you won't push me around." That wasn't going to fly. Determined to assert his dominance, Jesse uploaded a short, heavily cropped video clip to an anonymous hosting site. The clip showed Travis and Julia in bed faces clearly visible, kissing passionately, though it cut before any explicit acts. Then Jesse sent the link to Travis with a brief message. Pay the full amount, or this goes out to your entire contact list by tomorrow morning. He included screenshots of Travis's contact list, courtesy of Elaine's quiet infiltration of his phone records. By brandishing these, Jesse reinforced that he could reach Travis's wife, business partners, everyone. A frigid satisfaction welled in Jesse. He was playing with fire, but he felt no shame. This was the punishment they deserved. For the first time, he realized he was thoroughly capable of destroying another person's life. Without remorse, Travis had become less than human in his eyes. Just an obstacle to be crushed. Friday evening found Jesse alone in the condo's small living room, pacing while glancing at his phone every few minutes. He half expected a scathing text or even a phone call from Travis, perhaps conceding to pay. Instead, the phone rang with an unknown number. Jesse answered cautiously. A gravelly voice, thick with an unplaceable accent, spoke. "Mr. Davis?" He tensed. "Who's this?" "Don't worry about names. I work with Mr. Mitchell. He wants a meeting to discuss your demands and avoid further complications." Jesse's pulse thrummed. This reeked of a setup. "And what's the location?" "Old Foundry Warehouse by the river. Midnight. Come alone. You'll get your money." Jesse let out a humorless laugh. "Right. And I'm supposed to trust that?" "Mr. Mitchell just wants to talk. If you want your full payment, be there." Click. The line went dead. Jesse stared at the phone. It was a blatant trap. Travis was likely planning some intimidation tactic, if not outright violence. Rationally, Jesse should refuse. He could simply keep releasing damaging evidence until Travis capitulated or was destroyed. But some primal urge within him flared. He wanted to face Travis, to relish his fear up close again, maybe to finalize this battle once and for all. He texted Nelson. "Travis wants to meet. Old Foundry at midnight. Probably a trap. Could use backup." Nelson's reply came swiftly. "This is insane. Don't do it. Just keep blackmailing him from a distance." Jesse typed back, "I need closure. I'll bring a gun. Be prepared. Meet me an hour before to strategize." He set the phone down, exhaling. He was stepping into dangerous territory. But after everything, he refused to cower. If Travis wanted a showdown, Jesse would deliver. 11 p.m. at a desolate parking lot near the old foundry by the river. Jesse leaned against his SUV, arms folded. The night was cold, wind rustling through the skeletons of rusted machinery. A single security light flickered overhead. Nelson arrived in his sedan, face etched with worry. He stepped out, pulling his jacket collar tight. "I can't believe we're doing this." Jesse shrugged. "Me neither. But let's be prepared." He popped the trunk, revealing a small arsenal. The specialized shotgun shells, a compact handgun, a bulletproof vest he'd purchased online. Nelson let out a low whistle. "Jesus, man." "Better safe than sorry," Jesse muttered. "You'll hang back. Watch from a distance. If anything goes wrong, call the cops, but not until it's absolutely necessary. I can't risk them searching my place or looking into how I orchestrated all this." Nelson nodded, uneasy. Understood. They planned a quick vantage point. Nelson would drive 100 yards away behind a cluster of abandoned shipping containers, able to see the main foundry door. Jesse would walk in alone, carrying the concealed pistol. If Travis had men, or if it was a ruse, Jesse would rely on his wits and firearm to escape. The foundry itself was a hulking structure of corrugated metal, windows shattered by time and vandalism. At 11:55 p.m. Jesse approached, heart pounding, scanning for signs of an ambush. He slipped inside through a yawning entrance, stepping over broken glass and rusted debris. Ahead, in the dim glow of a single overhead lamp, stood Travis Mitchell with two hulking men flanking him. Travis wore a long coat, his shoulders stiff with bandages underneath, face drawn and angry. Jesse's voice echoed slightly in the cavernous space. "Travis, you summoned me?" One of the hulks sneered, clearly sizing Jesse up. Travis raised a hand, stepping forward. "I got your little video link. Clever. You want $2 million? We'll settle this here." Jesse scanned the room. No sign of an obvious money bag or anything. "You brought muscle, expecting trouble?" Travis let out a harsh laugh. "After what you did to me, can you blame me?" Jesse kept his hand near the concealed pistol, determined not to show fear. "So, did you bring the money or not?" Travis nodded to one of his men who produced a briefcase. Jesse's adrenaline spiked. Was it filled with cash, or was it a decoy? "Open it," Jesse demanded. The man snapped it open, revealing stacks of banded bills. Jesse eyed them from a few yards away. Hard to tell the total, but it looked substantial. Maybe $1 million, maybe less. Travis cleared his throat. "This is $1 million. You'll get the other $1 million when you erase every bit of evidence. Understood?" Jesse's mouth twisted. "You don't get to set the terms. I said $2 million by tonight. My patience is wearing thin." Travis's nostrils flared. "You have no idea the strings I had to pull for even this much. I can't wire big amounts instantly without raising flags. Another $1 million can be arranged next week. You keep your mouth shut until then." Jesse stepped closer, noticing the bodyguards tensing. "And if I refuse? You want to die poor and humiliated?" A flicker of pure hatred crossed Travis's face. "I'm not the one who's going to die." He nodded at his men. "Show him we're serious." Before Jesse could fully react, the two hulks advanced, blocking any easy path to the exit. Jesse's heart thundered, but he forced himself to remain cool. "Big mistake," he warned, hand slipping inside his jacket. He withdrew his pistol, aiming it steadily at the first bodyguard's center mass. "Back off." Travis barked. "He's not going to shoot. If he does, the cops will tear him to pieces in court." A tense standoff ensued. Jesse's voice was low and deadly. "Who says I'd leave any of you alive to talk? I'm done playing nice." In the corner of his eye, he searched for possible ambushers, but it seemed just the three of them. One of the bodyguards made a lunge, attempting to grab Jesse's gun arm. In a split second, Jesse pivoted, the muzzle flaring with a single shot that echoed through the metal walls. The bullet struck the man's shoulder, sending him sprawling with a pained roar. The second guard froze, eyes wide, reevaluating. Travis stepped back, face pale, fury flickering. "You maniac!" Jesse leveled the pistol at the second guard. "Anyone else want to try me?" he demanded, voice reverberating. "I told you, Travis. I'm done. You either pay or you suffer." Travis's breathing was ragged, adrenaline crackling in the air. All right, take the money now. I'll send the rest next week." Jesse never dropped the pistol. "Kick the briefcase over." The remaining guard complied, hooking it with his foot, sliding it across the grimy floor. Jesse reached down, eyes never leaving Travis. He popped the lid to confirm at least the top layer was real. It looked legitimate. Travis snarled, "Now you better erase that footage, wipe everything, or I swear." Jesse cut him off with a sharp laugh. "Spare me your empty threats. You want me to trust you? Show me you can pay the rest. Then I'll consider it." Travis's gaze flicked to his wounded bodyguard, who groaned on the floor. He spat at the ground in frustration. "You're insane. I swear one day—" "Shut up," Jesse snapped. "If I see or even sense any retaliation, I'll bury you. Remember that." He backed away slowly, briefcase in hand, pistol trained on them. The second guard stood inert, unwilling to risk another bullet. Travis glared, trembling with anger, but said nothing more. With each step, Jesse inched closer to the large opening, heart pounding like a war drum. He prayed Nelson was still outside, ready to help if needed. Once he was out of immediate range, he turned and sprinted, boots thudding against concrete. He half expected a hail of bullets behind him, but none came. Outside, the cold air struck him like a slap. He spotted Nelson's headlights from behind the containers. Rushing over, he jumped into his SUV, tossing the briefcase onto the passenger seat. Nelson's eyes widened, but he quickly started the engine. "Go, go!" Jesse barked. They peeled out of the sight, headlights cutting through the gloom, adrenaline coursing through Jesse's veins. The first guard had been shot non-lethally, Jesse hoped, but it would definitely escalate tension further. As they sped away, Jesse clutched the wheel, mind whirling. He had half the money, $1 million in cold, hard cash, but at what cost? An hour later, they reconvened in a secluded back road. Jesse transferred to Nelson's sedan, where they did a quick count. It was indeed roughly $1 million in banded bills. Nelson whistled softly. "So you basically just robbed him at gunpoint?" Jesse stared at the cash. "He tried to trap me, so I defended myself. This is only half. He owes me the rest." Nelson sank into the seat. "Jesse, this has gone too far. That bodyguard you shot Travis might go ballistic." Jesse snorted, though sweat beaded his brow. "Then I'll release everything. I still hold the bigger gun in this standoff." He paused, wiping his face. "Tomorrow I'm leaving for a safe location, just in case Travis tries something else. I'll put this money in a secure deposit box." Nelson nodded, resigned. "Okay, let me help you with that. But seriously, watch your back." Jesse gazed at the trunk, where the briefcase lay hidden. $1 million. Proof that vengeance paid at least in cold cash. But in his gut, a hollow feeling gnawed. He'd crossed lines he once considered unthinkable. He was an aggressor now, fueled by betrayal and rage. He told himself it was justified, that Travis and Julia had forced him to become this. But part of him, in the quiet corners of his mind, wondered if he would ever feel normal again. Saturday morning found Jesse in a discreet hotel room 2 counties over, a location booked under a friend's name, paid in cash. He was taking no chances. After stashing the $1 million in a safe deposit box, he retreated here to plan his next move. He stared at his laptop, going through local news sites, half expecting to see a sensational headline. Shooting at abandoned foundry. But there was nothing. Perhaps Travis had used his connections to keep the incident quiet. Or maybe the guard had survived without contacting the authorities, not wanting attention. Jesse exhaled in relief, at least for the moment. He typed a short, cryptic email to Elaine, letting her know he had collected partial funds and that Travis still owed another $1 million. Then he updated her on the foundry confrontation, leaving out details about the shooting, but implying Travis's attempt at intimidation had failed. Elaine's response came within an hour. Elaine, "I heard about the fiasco. Travis came home raging, but he's quiet now. He's probably plotting. I suggest you stay low. I'll see if I can glean anything about his next move." Jesse closed the email with a wry chuckle. Elaine was proving a valuable mole, but he didn't trust her further than he could throw her. She had her own agenda. Travis's downfall might net her a larger share of assets in a divorce or more control in the merger. He pulled out the second phone that Nelson had configured, a secure device, and scrolled through new voice memos from the microphone he'd left inside Julia's car weeks ago. Wait, hadn't he removed all the bugs? In the chaos, he realized he might have forgotten the one in her car. Sure enough, it was still transmitting sporadic updates. He plugged in an earpiece and played the most recent snippet. Julia's voice, faint, emotional. "Travis, we have to stop this. Jesse's crazy, but we can't fight him like this. He's going to destroy both of us." Travis, growling, "He's messing with the wrong man. I'll handle it. Don't you worry." Julia, "Damn it, Travis, you can't fix this by hiring thugs. I never wanted this." It ended in static. Jesse's pulse hammered, so they had a conversation in her car, presumably that morning. She was clearly terrified, urging Travis to back down. Meanwhile, Travis was doubling down. Good. Jesse found perverse satisfaction in hearing them squirm. Back in Crestwood Hills, Julia was in a silent war with her own conscience. She roamed the house like a ghost, expecting Jesse to appear at any moment, but he never did. The divorce papers lay on the kitchen island, a daily reminder that she was alone. She called her father, voice trembling. "Dad, I need help. I messed up. Jesse's divorcing me, and I'm afraid of what's going to happen next." Her father, a retired teacher with a stern moral code, was unyielding. "Julia, your mother and I love you, but we can't condone what you did. Cheating on Jesse, that's something we never expected from you." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I know, Dad, I'm sorry. I need financial help for a lawyer to figure out how to keep some stability. Jesse wants to leave me with nothing." A heavy sigh traveled across the line. "We might help with a lawyer, but we're not bailing you out of your own choices. Understand?" Julia swallowed a flare of resentment. She recognized she'd lost the moral high ground. "I understand." Her father gave her the name of a local attorney. "Call him, see if you can negotiate. But remember, you brought this on yourself. I'm disappointed in you, Julia." She ended the call feeling lower than ever. Even her parents looked at her with shame. For a fleeting moment, she wished she could run to Travis for comfort, but that was a joke. Travis was too busy plotting vengeance or saving his own skin. She realized with a sick twist of her stomach that she had no one left to trust. She'd burned every bridge. Phoebe took it upon herself to try bridging the gap between Jesse and Julia. Late Saturday, she found Jesse's temporary phone number through a mutual contact he'd changed his original number. She called him, half expecting him not to answer. But after a few rings, she heard his curt, "Hello? Jesse, it's Phoebe. Please don't hang up," she said in a rush. Silence. Then, "I'm listening." Phoebe exhaled. "I get you don't want to talk to Julia, but I need to see if there's any chance you two can handle this divorce without burning everything down." A cold laugh echoed on the line. "Handle it nicely? After she betrayed me? I'm not sure I have that capacity left, Phoebe." She closed her eyes, pressing the phone closer. "Look, I'm not defending what she did. I'm furious with her too, but I'm worried about you both. And I'm worried about the extremes this is reaching. She's convinced you'll ruin her completely." Jesse's voice dropped. "She deserves it. If you saw what I saw, heard what I heard, you'd understand. I gave her everything, and she spat on it." Phoebe winced, sympathy fluttering. "I do understand. But is there any sliver of empathy left, at least for the good years you had together?" A weighted pause. "Phoebe, I was a good husband. I provided, I was faithful, I supported her ambitions. She turned around and let Travis treat me like a joke in my own bed. I'm not negotiating with a traitor. This is war, and I'll come out on top." Phoebe's heart sank. She recognized the lethal finality in his tone. "I'm sorry, Jesse. I had to try." "No need to apologize. I appreciate that you care," he said, voice marginally softer. "But I'm done. If she wants a gentler settlement, she can sign the divorce papers promptly and keep her mouth shut about everything. That's the best I'll do." Before Phoebe could respond, he ended the call. She stared at her phone, tears pricking her eyes. She knew the fractures were irreparable. Jesse was set on revenge, and Julia was left drowning in regret. The only question was how vicious the final blow would be. Sunday morning, Jesse prepared to make his next move. He told Nelson to meet him at a quiet diner off the interstate, somewhere out of the city. They slid into a booth, eyes weary from sleepless nights. Nelson ordered coffee for both. "You look like hell," he told Jesse bluntly. Jesse offered a tired smirk. "Haven't slept well. Paranoia, I guess." Nelson nodded. "Same. So how do we proceed?" Jesse leaned forward, voice quiet. "I have the $1 million in a deposit box. Travis owes me another $1 million. He was supposed to pay the full sum by Friday, but he set up that trap at the foundry instead. Now I have to push him harder or cut my losses." Nelson frowned. "And which do you prefer?" A flash of bitterness crossed Jesse's face. "He humiliated me, took my wife, destroyed my marriage. I want the full price. He needs to bleed." A flicker of concern darkened Nelson's expression. "Just be careful it doesn't push you into deeper criminal territory. You already shot a man, Jesse." "I know," Jesse said, voice tight, "but I can't walk away with half. That's not how this ends." "I'll release more damning evidence if he doesn't comply. Let his wife divorce him with cause. Let his business partners see the tax evasion. He'll lose everything." Nelson sipped his coffee, a faint tremor in his hand. "You're in deep, man." Maybe just vanish with the million you have. Start fresh. A storm brewed behind Jesse's eyes. He took a chunk of my soul. $1 million doesn't fix that. I'll push him to the brink. Nelson studied him, sympathy mingling with alarm. All right, I won't stop you. But remember, Travis is dangerous. He might come at you again. Jesse exhaled slowly. I'm ready. On Monday, Jesse used a secure channel to send a new message to Travis. You failed to deliver the full amount. I took what you offered, plus a bullet from my gun. Now you owe me $1 million more. Deadline, Wednesday, 5 p.m. No negotiations, no partial sums. If I don't see it, everything goes public. He attached a short snippet of the video this time showing Travis sneering at the camera, clearly mid-act with Julia, just enough to leave no doubt of who it was. The implied threat hung in digital space. That same morning, he took a final step in his divorce strategy. He had the papers refiled with an even more aggressive clause. Julia's financial settlement would be minimal, given clear proof of adultery. He also had a real estate agent appraise the house, planning to list it for sale. If Julia resisted, he'd force a sale through the divorce proceedings. He felt unstoppable, an avenging spirit weaving through legal and illegal realms to exact his brand of justice. Julia received the updated divorce demands that afternoon, courtesy of her father's recommended attorney. She nearly collapsed in the lawyer's office, tears streaming as she read the brutal terms. Jesse wanted the house sold, with the majority of proceeds going to him. The business assets would remain entirely in his name, with no spousal support. He even demanded that she cover some of his legal fees. Her lawyer was a middle-aged man named Stan Whitaker, who frowned sympathetically. He's hitting you hard, Miss Davis. I can challenge some of these requests in court, but given the evidence of adultery, it might be an uphill battle. Julia wiped her eyes. What can I do? I don't have the funds to fight him for long, and I just want to keep a roof over my head. Stan adjusted his glasses. We can attempt to negotiate a settlement. Perhaps if you show willingness to finalize the divorce quickly and keep this quiet, he might relent on the house, but your best hope might be appealing to any leftover goodwill he has for you. Julia let out a strangled laugh. Goodwill? He despises me now. Stan sighed. Then we may have to rely on the standard property division laws. However, if he can demonstrate you dissipated marital assets for the affair gifts for your lover, etc., the judge could side with him more. So we need to be cautious. She slumped, feeling like every direction was a dead end. What about Travis? He said he'd help me if I ever needed anything, but now he's ignoring my calls. Stan gave her a measured look. Relying on your affair partner might not go over well in court, or with your husband's legal team. But if Travis wants to keep you quiet, maybe he'd pay you under the table. The suggestion made her stomach turn. She realized how utterly compromised her life had become. But a flicker of desperation sparked. Could she approach Travis for hush money to at least secure a small place to live? She loathed the idea, but it might be her only way to survive the looming financial devastation. She left Stan's office with a folder of grim documents. Outside, the sky was overcast, matching the despair in her soul. She realized that she was on her own, burned by both men, Jesse with his vengeance, Travis with his cold disinterest. This was the cost of betrayal. That same evening, Travis roamed the lavish living room of Elaine's condo, clutching a tumbler of whiskey in his good hand. His shoulder still ached, now wrapped in fresh bandages. Every twinge reminded him of Jesse's unstoppable fury. He reread the new ultimatum, another $1 million by Wednesday or total exposure. His phone chimed with a text from Elaine. Pay him or face the meltdown. I can't protect you forever. Anger simmered inside him. He flung the tumbler at the fireplace, glass shattering, amber liquid spraying the mantel. The bodyguard who'd been shot was stable, but furious, demanding extra compensation for his injuries. Travis felt besieged. His mind flashed with images of the Foundry meeting, how easily Jesse had fired the gun. Travis realized he might not be able to match Jesse blow for blow, but maybe he could orchestrate an accident for Jesse. Enough to remove him from the equation, but not so obvious that it triggered an investigation. Grabbing his phone, he dialed a contact labeled Pharaoh once again. I need a more permanent solution, Travis said, jaw clenched. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. A carjacking, maybe. I don't care how you do it, just ensure Jesse Davis disappears and no one ties it to me. Farrow's gravelly voice asked for details. Travis provided a general description of Jesse's routines, his possible hideouts, the vehicles he might be driving. Then he ended the call, heart pounding with a dark sense of finality. This was murder he was ordering, plain and simple. But he saw no other way out. If Jesse was gone, the blackmail ended. The affair footage stayed hidden. The offshore accounts remained unexposed, and Travis could claim everything was just a tragic random crime. He sank onto the couch, pressing a hand to his throbbing shoulder. He told himself he was justified, that Jesse had escalated first, but a tremor of guilt rippled through him. There was no turning back from hiring a killer. Tuesday morning, Jesse woke to a crisp day, the sun streaming into the motel's flimsy blinds. He scrolled through his messages. Still no deposit from Travis, no new threats. Even Elaine was silent. The quiet unnerved him. Determined to maintain some semblance of normalcy, he visited the office of Davis Aeroparts, checking in with his staff, signing a few urgent contracts. On the surface, he was the calm CEO, discussing shipping routes and QC audits. Beneath that facade, tension coiled. Around noon, he grabbed lunch from a nearby deli, taking it back to his SUV. As he climbed in, his phone chimed with an unknown local number. Warily, he answered, "Yes?" A hoarse male voice. "Mr. Davis? This is Officer Daniels from the Crestwood Police Department. I was following up on the reported break-in at your property." Jesse's pulse quickened. "Break-in?" "Yes, your wife and a Mr. Travis Mitchell reported an assault in your home last week. I understand you were allegedly out of town?" Jesse's throat tightened. This was the detective who'd initially questioned them in the ER. He forced calm. "Correct. I was on a business trip. Look, officer, I don't know much about it. I didn't see anything stolen. My wife said it must have been some random intruder." Daniels paused. "And you haven't talked to Mr. Mitchell about it?" "Not really," Jesse lied. "We're not exactly close. Why?" A faint sigh from the cop. "Just routine follow-up, Mr. Mitchell gave us limited details, but we found some inconsistencies. We'd like to talk to you in person, if possible." Jesse's mind raced. "I'm quite busy, and to be honest, we're going through a marital separation, so I'm not staying at that house right now." Officer Daniels was diplomatic. "Understood. Please call me if you recall anything that might help. We want to catch whoever did this." "Sure, officer. Will do," Jesse mumbled, then ended the call. He tossed his phone onto the passenger seat, frustration knotting his gut. The police were still sniffing around. He had to ensure no one uncovered the truth of that night's events. Sighing, he texted his attorney to keep her informed, then resumed driving. By Tuesday night, the tension was palpable. Jesse continued monitoring the offshore account, waiting for Travis's final payment. Nothing. The second half of the hush money was overdue, with the Wednesday deadline looming. He sat in the condo, disassembling and reassembling the pistol he'd used at the foundry as a sort of nervous ritual. If Travis was stalling, I'll push him once more, Jesse decided. He opened his laptop to craft a final threat, something that would rattle Travis enough to pay up without further stunts. But a sudden clang outside the condo building drew his attention. His pulse spiked. He set the pistol aside, carefully peering through a window. The parking lot looked normal. A few cars scattered under streetlights, probably just a neighbor dumping trash. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He quickly packed the pistol, grabbed his laptop, and decided to shift to a different safe spot for the night. Maybe a friend's place. He texted Nelson. "I have a bad feeling. Gonna lay low at a new location. Let's meet in the morning at the usual diner." Nelson replied, "Sure, stay safe. Don't let your guard down." Jesse hastily locked up the condo, hopped into his SUV, and drove off. Unbeknownst to him, a dark sedan idled 2 blocks away, headlights off, a single figure behind the wheel. As Jesse's SUV disappeared, the sedan eased into gear, following at a careful distance. Travis's hired eyes were indeed watching. That night, in a dingy motel off the highway, Jesse huddled on the bed with his laptop perched on his knees. The faint hum of a broken neon sign outside cast flickering orange light through the curtain. He composed an email to Travis. "Time's almost up. If I don't see $1 million in my account by tomorrow at 5 p.m., your entire life unravels. That includes your wife, your partners, the media. The video of you and Julia will break the internet, and the documents about your offshore accounts will reach the IRS. Test me and see what happens." He hit send, then shut the laptop. Rolling onto his back, he stared at the cracked ceiling, exhaustion pulling at him. He'd never felt so alone or hunted. The weight of what he was doing threatened to crush him, but his anger remained the driver. Before sleep, he allowed one fleeting memory to surface. His honeymoon with Julia, both of them laughing on a sun-drenched beach, naive and full of hope. That memory was irreconcilable with the betrayal, the violence, the blackmail. It was another life. He drifted off, gun tucked under his pillow, bracing for whatever chaos the dawn might bring. Wednesday morning arrived like the crack of thunder. Jesse woke in the motel, groggy and stiff. He fired up his laptop to check for any deposit notifications in the offshore account. Still empty. Grim determination settled over him. Travis must be trying one last bluff, he mused. But the deadline is 5 p.m. He'll crack by then or face total destruction. He showered, donned fresh clothes, and stuffed his meager belongings into a duffel. There was no point in lingering. Meeting Nelson at the diner had become routine. They slid into the same corner booth, greeted by a waitress who recognized them enough to offer a stiff smile. Over coffee, Jesse recounted the uneasy feeling of being followed. "Probably Travis's goons," Nelson said, rubbing his eyes. "They might be waiting for the right moment to corner you." Jesse shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "If they try, I'm armed. And I'll release everything if I disappear. I have a dead man's switch set up with a friend out of state." That was a small lie he was the friend out of state, but the principle held. He had backups. Nelson nodded. "Then your best defense is still threatening to leak the info." "Exactly," Jesse murmured, sipping black coffee. "By day's end, I'll either have the second million or unleash total war." Nelson stared at his old friend, seeing a man transformed. Jesse's eyes held a cold, unwavering intensity. "All right, I'll be on standby." Across the city, in Elaine's upscale condo, Travis paced with restless energy. He'd just gotten off a tense phone call with his attorney, who hinted that if Travis was involved in any illegal activity like hush money or violence, he could face major ramifications. Meanwhile, the clock on the mantel read 9 a.m. ticking inexorably toward Jesse's 5 p.m. deadline. Elaine watched him from an armchair, swirling a cup of tea. "You're unraveling. Pay the man, Travis. This stalemate is killing you." He slammed a fist on the table. "I can't just conjure $1 million overnight without raising suspicion. My bank accounts are scrutinized, and the merger partners are suspicious enough of my recent injuries." Elaine sighed. "Then tell them you need an advance, or liquidate some assets. This fiasco with your side piece is overshadowing the entire negotiation." Travis's eyes blazed. "Don't call her that, and stop acting like you're above all this." A humorless smile curved her lips. "I'm not above it, but I'm not the one who flaunted an affair in front of the entire firm. Even if you manage to pay Jesse off, do you think he'll just walk away satisfied?" A muscle in Travis's jaw twitched. He retrieved his phone, scanning for any messages from Pharaoh, the contact he'd hired for a more drastic solution. Nothing yet. Anxiety gnawed at him. If Pharaoh succeeded in eliminating Jesse, the blackmail threat died. But if Pharaoh failed, Travis could face blowback beyond measure. Elaine sensed his turmoil. "I gave you fair warning about your extracurricular hobbies," she said, arching an eyebrow. "Don't expect me to catch you every time." Travis glowered, but inside he felt trapped. He had a handful of hours left to either pay or face possible ruin. And the plan to kill Jesse was dangerously incomplete. He dialed a financial advisor, voice tight. "We need to move $500,000 from my investment account immediately. Yes, I know there are penalties. Just do it." He'd see if he could gather at least some portion. Maybe Jesse would take another partial sum. Or maybe Travis could stall him, keep him on the line until Pharaoh took him out. "One way or another, I'm finishing this," Travis vowed. Meanwhile, Julia sat in her father's living room, clutching her phone, drowning in misery. She had left the marital house that morning after a sleepless night. The memories there were too raw, the silence too suffocating. Her parents had offered her a guest room temporarily, though tension remained palpable. The local news channel played in the background. She was only half listening until she heard the anchor mention Zephyr Consulting in a segment about big merger deals. Her spine stiffened. Travis's face flashed on the screen, an older stock photo of him smiling in a tailored suit. The anchor described how the deal was rumored to be under pressure due to leadership concerns. Julia rubbed her temples. This must be because of Jesse's blackmail, she realized. Travis's entire career was on the brink. And so was her future. She wondered if Travis's meltdown would have repercussions for her own finances. She needed to talk to him, but he hadn't answered calls since the hospital fiasco. Drawing a shaky breath, she tapped out a text to Travis. "Where are you? I need to talk. Everything is spiraling. Please, Travis." No reply. She fought the urge to throw her phone in frustration. Rising from the couch, she glanced at her reflection in a hall mirror, puffy eyes, gaunt cheeks. She hardly recognized herself. I did this, she thought. I ruined my life for a man who can't even pick up the phone now. Noon. Jesse was holed up in his SUV at a local park, engine idling, scanning the surroundings for any suspicious vehicles. He typed a final message to Travis. 5 hours left. Don't bother with partial sums. Only 1 M in full, or the world sees who you really are. He pressed send, heart pounding. This was the climax. By 5 p.m., Travis would either deliver or declare war. Jesse's phone chimed minutes later, an unknown number. Unknown. Don't do anything stupid. We'll have your money soon. Wait for instructions. He recognized the style of Travis's muscle. Another stall tactic. With a frustrated grunt, he fired back. Jesse. Instructions? I gave you instructions. Pay me or watch your life crumble. No response came. Jesse tossed his phone onto the passenger seat, mind spinning. He pulled out a few printouts from the Foundry fiasco, grainy pictures of Travis from the camera footage. He's probably desperate, Jesse mused. Desperate men are unpredictable. A wave of unease coursed through him. He kept a hand near his pistol. At 3 p.m., no payment. Jesse was done waiting. He drove to a random Starbucks, found a seat in a corner, and opened his laptop. With rapid keystrokes, he prepared an email blast, Travis's partners, major news outlets, a few gossip blogs. He attached a portion of the affair footage, along with references to the offshore accounts. The subject line, Travis Mitchell fraud and adultery exposed. He paused, finger hovering over the send button. Once he unleashed this, there was no going back. He'd incinerate Travis's reputation, probably kill the merger, and ensure Elaine and the entire corporate world saw the truth. But let me give him until 4:59, Jesse decided grudgingly. He set a timer on his phone for 4:59 p.m. If the money didn't appear by then, he'd press send. Leaving the email draft open, he paced outside the Starbucks, phone in hand. The August heat bore down, sweat prickling at his collar. He watched passers-by, students, professionals, families going about their day, oblivious to the high-stakes drama unfolding. Jesse felt like a man standing on a cliff about to push everything over the edge. 4 p.m. rolled around. Still no deposit. The tension was suffocating. Jesse texted Nelson. It's almost time. No sign of payment. I'm about to blow it all up. Nelson replied, You sure about this? No turning back if you do. Jesse typed, No turning back anyway. If Travis wants a war, he'll get it. A bead of sweat rolled down Jesse's temple. He re-entered the Starbucks, found his laptop where he'd left it, and refreshed the offshore account page one last time. 0. The clock read 4:30 now, a half hour left. Customers bustled around him, sipping iced coffees, tapping on laptops. Jesse tried to compose himself, ignoring the swirl of dread in his gut. Was he truly ready to devastate Travis's entire life? The memory of Travis mocking him in bed with Julia surfaced, fueling his resolve. Yes, he deserves no mercy. 4:45 p.m. Jesse took one last glance at the account empty. The hush in his mind was absolute. He reopened the email blast, scanning it for accuracy. It included just enough footage to ruin Travis personally, plus links to the documents about his hidden assets. This will be a nuclear bomb. He read over the lines. To whom it may concern, the attached materials demonstrate Travis Mitchell's ongoing affair with a married employee and clear evidence of financial misconduct. These sources are verified. We urge the recipients to investigate further. The public deserves to know. He had even appended a short note to the gossip blogs, who would jump at the chance for such a scandal. You want to humiliate me? Let the world see your hypocrisy. With sweaty palms, he glanced at the timer on his phone. 14 minutes left. The seconds ticked by relentlessly. He pictured Travis somewhere in a plush office or condo, scrambling for a last-minute miracle. Too late, Jesse thought. You should have known better. 4:59 p.m. beeped. Jesse's heart hammered like a drum in his ears. No deposit. Show's over. He exhaled, let all the anger and heartbreak saturate him, then clicked send. The screen displayed a swirling icon as the large attachments uploaded. He didn't realize he was holding his breath until the progress bar completed, indicating success. The message vanished, presumably hurtling toward dozens of inboxes. A wave of exhilaration and dread washed over him. This is it. I've done it. Travis's fall would be swift and brutal, the final piece of revenge. Jesse slumped back in his chair, ignoring the barista calling out orders. He closed his laptop, feeling oddly hollow. He'd dreamed of this moment, but now that it was happening, numbness replaced triumph. He left Starbucks, stepping into the late afternoon sun, uncertain of where to go next. Possibly back to the condo, or maybe he'd just drive around. I need to vanish, he told himself. Travis would soon know about the email blast, or the news might break spontaneously. Either way, chaos would erupt. In a sleek high-rise office, Travis was in the middle of a frantic phone negotiation with an investment firm, trying to free up capital when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, dozens of notifications. Texts, emails, calls. His blood chilled. Something was happening. The partner he was speaking to said, "Travis, we're getting some disturbing news about you. A scandal? An affair?" "I just got an email from an anonymous sender." Travis's throat locked. "Wait, let's not jump to conclusions," he stammered, panic flaring. But the man cut him off. "The email has a video. Of you and someone? Is this real? Travis, the merger, my God, I have to call you back. This is a disaster." Click. The line went dead. Travis's eyes darted to his phone, seeing a barrage of new calls from various contacts. A sinking dread coursed through him. That bastard Jesse did it. He pulled the trigger on the bomb. He opened his email app, trembling. The top message read, "Travis Mitchell fraud and adultery exposed." By the second, more recipients seemed to forward or reply. The meltdown was happening in real time. With shaky fingers, he played a snippet of the attached video. His own face stared back at him from the screen, lying in bed with Julia, mocking Jesse's hardware business. The words he used, the laughter, all captured. He let out a guttural moan, yanking at his hair. This was career suicide. Within minutes, calls from outraged partners and shocked friends poured in. The sense of doom overwhelmed him. He flung the phone across the office, chest heaving. It crashed against a glass cabinet, shattering the screen. He wanted to scream, to strangle Jesse with his bare hands, but he knew it was too late. The cataclysm had already begun. Simultaneously, news outlets and social media started buzzing. Some of the smaller gossip sites posted a teaser about a prominent consulting executive's alleged affair, financial misconduct. The video snippet circulated in private chats among reporters, eventually leaking to tabloid Twitter accounts. Everyone wanted the scoop. Elaine sat in her condo, phone ablaze with incoming texts. She read the subject lines with a mixture of horror and vindication. It's happening, she thought. Travis is finished. She quickly dialed her own attorney, preparing to strike if Travis's meltdown threatened her finances. Julia, on the other hand, learned of the leak via Phoebe's frantic call. "It's out there, Jules. I just got a forward from a coworker. They recognized you in the video. Oh God, this is terrible." Julia felt her breath catch, tears brimming. She tried to open the link, but part of her didn't want to see herself in that humiliating footage. She sank to the floor, retching from stress, mind reeling at the public scorn sure to rain down. Jesse did it. He destroyed everything. A flicker of anger warred with guilt. "I caused this, I can't blame him, not entirely." "And Jesse?" He drove aimlessly through city streets, phone set to silent. A surreal calm drifted over him. He imagined Travis's meltdown in real time, the explosion of calls and emails. "You made your choice, Travis," he thought, pressing the gas pedal. "Now live with the consequences." He found no joy in it, only a grim sense of finality. By evening, the fiasco was unstoppable. The dominoes had fallen, each piece toppling the next. Travis's professional empire began to crumble under the weight of scandal, and the personal lives of everyone involved were laid bare. Jesse, exhausted, vengeful, and hollow, had won the war. Wednesday, 6 p.m. The scorching August sun dipped below the horizon as Jesse cruised aimlessly along the interstate. He'd turned his phone to silent but not off, letting countless notifications pile up texts, calls, and emails that he didn't want to see just yet. He felt the aftershock of pressing that send button in Starbucks, launching Travis's darkest secrets into the digital wild. The radio in his SUV was turned off. He couldn't stand the noise. Instead, he let the hum of the tires on asphalt fill his mind. With each passing mile, images of the day's chaos swirled in his thoughts. He pictured Travis's meltdown, raging phone calls, and the swirl of social media that must now be ablaze with gossip. He pictured Julia, possibly sobbing in shame, Phoebe trying to comfort her. He pictured Elaine sipping a glass of something expensive while reading the damning emails with cold satisfaction. But mostly, Jesse's mind wandered to an older memory him and Julia at age 20-something, climbing a rocky trail outside Sedona, giggling when they almost slipped on loose gravel. He tried to recall the warmth of that day, how her laughter used to make him feel alive. That memory clashed violently with the image of her in bed with Travis, mocking him. The dissonance stung. Somewhere past mile marker 75, Jesse pulled into a truck stop. He needed to breathe, to find a flicker of normalcy, maybe wash his face, grab a soda, collect himself. It was as though his body was on autopilot. He could only manage one small step at a time. He parked in front of a sprawling convenience store. The neon sign flickered, casting harsh light on the cracked pavement. As he stepped out of the SUV, the thick summer air slapped him in the face. Inside, the store was a mishmash of bright candy displays, gaudy souvenirs, and tired-looking truckers sipping coffee. Jesse grabbed a bottle of water, took it to the register. The bored teenage cashier didn't even glance up. "That'll be $1.49, she mumbled. He paid in cash, ignoring the "have a nice day" auto-response. In the corner, a cheap TV mounted near the ceiling played a 24-hour news channel with the volume low. He caught sight of a scrolling news ticker referencing "Scandal at major consulting firm partner accused of financial fraud." His chest tightened. Was that Travis? Probably. Another wave of adrenaline hit him. No going back now. He ducked outside to avoid hearing more. If the world was about to roast Travis, Jesse would let it happen in his absence. Meanwhile, across town, the meltdown was in full swing at Zephyr Consulting's headquarters. The last employees and night shift security staff had been blindsided by an onslaught of calls from clients demanding clarification. The upper management was in panic mode. Some had seen glimpses of the leaked video, enough to piece together that Travis Mitchell was at the center of a humiliating scandal. A rumor soared around the building. Travis is done. Some employees felt it was karma, given Travis's reputation for arrogance. Others were shocked to learn about an affair with his own subordinate Julia, who'd recently vanished from the firm, fired by HR quietly. In a top-floor conference room, two senior partners, Colin and Marcia, conferred over coffee. Colin's brow glistened with sweat. "This is catastrophic. Our merger with Axton and Hunt? They'll back out the moment this hits mainstream news." Marcia rubbed her temples. "The mainstream news is already sniffing. We got calls from a local station. They want an official comment." They both looked toward Travis's corner office, dark and empty. He hadn't been seen in hours. Repeated calls to his cell phone went unanswered. The scandal had effectively decapitated the firm's leadership. Colin sighed. "We need an emergency board meeting tomorrow. If Travis doesn't show, we'll forcibly remove him from the partnership." Marcia nodded grimly. "We have no choice. He's poison now." Outside, a junior associate hovered, listening with a mix of dread and fascination. The unstoppable Travis Mitchell, revered by many, was about to be ousted in the most public way possible. The corporate world could be merciless. Julia was at her parents' house, curled on an old couch in the den. The room had once been her teenage refuge, walls still sporting faded posters of early 2000s pop stars. Now, it felt claustrophobic, a stark reminder of her regression. She was a 42-year-old woman, back under her parents' roof. Her phone buzzed for the 100th time. She'd already received a string of vile texts from random numbers, people who'd seen or heard about the leaked video. Trolls on social media, acquaintances from the neighborhood, even distant relatives. The condemnation was swift and brutal, calling her every name under the sun. Tears stained her cheeks, a mixture of regret and fear. She rubbed her temples, recalling Travis's broken promises to shield her, to help her find a better life. Now, in this ruin, he was nowhere to be found. Her mother, a petite woman with steely eyes, entered quietly. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "we saw the news. Your father's upset. We both are. This is humiliating for the family." Julia's voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know it would get this far." Her mother's eyes flickered with disappointment. "I thought you loved Jesse. How could you—" Julia's sob turned into a bitter laugh. "I did love him, or at least I thought so. Then I got bored, I guess, or seduced by Travis's wealth and attention. I wish I could turn back time." An awkward silence filled the den. Her mother patted her shoulder gently, no real words left to offer. Even sympathy had its limits when trust was destroyed. Elaine sat in her private study, a glass of fine Chardonnay in hand. The digital chaos had swept in like a tidal wave. Emails, phone alerts, calls from curious friends, all wanting the inside scoop on her husband's downfall. She scrolled through the leaked documents with a calm detachment. There it was, Travis's offshore accounts, the details of his affair. She saw how humiliating it was for him. Yet she felt a sense of victory, too. Travis's power had overshadowed her for years. He'd once threatened to cut her off if she didn't keep quiet about his extramarital escapades. Now, ironically, Jesse had done the dirty work for her. If Travis was forced out of Zephyr, Elaine might leverage the scandal to negotiate a better prenuptial upgrade or even a divorce settlement. Maybe she could claim moral high ground. "He humiliated me, so I deserve compensation." She dialed her attorney, a polished man named Eric Stanton, who answered on the second ring. "Elaine," he greeted. "I assume this is about the meltdown?" She swirled her wine. "Indeed. Travis is about to lose everything. We need to move quickly to secure my position. If we wait, the corporate finances might go under, and I'll be left with scraps." Eric's voice was calm. "I'll file a protective claim on your behalf. We can freeze certain shared accounts so he can't empty them without your consent." "Do it. Also, discreetly contact my father's estate lawyer. I want to ensure no scandal taints my inheritance." Eric jotted notes. "Done. And as for the marriage itself," Elaine took a measured sip of wine, "I'll decide whether to divorce or remain married based on how thoroughly Travis recovers from this, but it's always good to have a fallback plan." They said their polite goodbyes. Elaine clicked her phone off, a half-smile curving her lips. If Travis had been a better husband, she might have shielded him. Now, she felt no loyalty. The world was harsh, but she'd learned to adapt. Somewhere across the city, in a rundown apartment building, Travis hunched over a table scattered with whiskey bottles and half-eaten takeout. This was not the plush condo or his fancy office. Instead, it was an old safe house a friend once let him use in times of domestic disputes. He reeked of sweat and whiskey, pacing circles around the dingy living room. The phone he'd destroyed earlier left him isolated, so he used a backup burner to glean bits of the chaos. His name was plastered on news sites, finance blogs, social media. A sinking panic settled in his gut. He clutched the phone, trying to call Pharaoh, the problem solver he'd hired. No response. Travis spat a curse. The man had promised to handle Jesse, but evidently that hadn't happened before Jesse launched the scandal bomb. Now it was too late. 1,000 thoughts raced through Travis's mind. My career is over. Elaine will divorce me or emasculate me entirely. The firm's partners will demand my resignation. Should I flee the country? He grabbed an open bottle and drank until it burned. Tears of rage clouded his vision. He wanted to kill Jesse, to tear him apart. But that was no longer feasible. Jesse had the entire city, and beyond, reading about Travis's sins. In a drunken haze, Travis typed a vicious text to Julia on the burner phone. "You worthless. This is your fault. If you hadn't enticed me, we wouldn't be in this mess. Don't contact me. I regret everything." He hit send, slumping onto the couch, the wounded shoulder throbbing in pain. Defeated, cornered, he sank deeper into liquor. The mighty alpha male was now a caged, wounded animal, lashing at any straw of control he could find. Jesse eventually pulled into a modest roadside motel, a place with chipped paint and flickering neon, reminiscent of the spot he'd used before. The front desk clerk recognized him vaguely, but Jesse kept his head down, paying in cash. In the stale motel room, he collapsed onto the bed, rummaging his phone from his pocket. Reluctantly, he turned the ringer on. The screen exploded with notifications, voicemails, texts, missed calls from unknown numbers. He scrolled through quickly, seeing some from Nelson likely checking on him. Others from an unrecognized number that repeated lines like, "You'll pay for this," and "You have no idea who you messed with." Probably Travis's hired thugs. He found a single text from Julia, time-stamped hours ago. Why did you do it? I begged you not to. I'm so sorry for everything. Please answer. Please." Jesse stared at the message, a swirl of conflicting emotions. Part of him wanted to ignore her forever. Another part wanted to unleash more venom, telling her she deserved this humiliation. In the end, he typed a single reply. "You made your choice. Accept the consequences." He tapped send and threw the phone aside. The room's oppressive silence pressed in on him. He was exhausted, yet restless. He pictured Julia reading his cold reply, her heart sinking. He found a grim satisfaction, but also felt a pang of something akin to grief for the love that once existed. The following morning, Thursday, the media storm raged. Local news stations ran segments on Travis Mitchell's scandal, though they kept certain explicit details vague. One anchor teased, "Sources claim racy footage of a workplace affair. The firm's official statement remains pending." Online, the gossip sites were less restrained, posting blurred screenshots from the video, quoting the leaked documents about Travis's offshore accounts. Twitter threads debated the moral failings of the wealthy, calling Travis a sleazy boss, referencing Travis' affair. Zephyr Consulting's board scrambled to do damage control. They released a bland statement about investigating allegations, but the ship was sinking fast. Several major clients were rumored to be severing ties. Jesse, ironically, tried to maintain a semblance of normal business at Davis Aeroparts. He arrived mid-morning, stepping into the warehouse, greeted by uneasy looks from his employees. Rumors had spread that he was somehow tied to the big scandal. "Hey, boss," said a middle manager named Karen, biting her lip. I saw some stuff online about a certain Travis Mitchell. Are you okay?" Jesse forced a polite nod. "I'm good, Karen. That fiasco doesn't affect our shipments. Let's stay focused on our clients." She nodded, stepping aside, but the tension was palpable. Everyone sensed that their usually collected CEO was at the center of a storm. By lunchtime, Jesse locked himself in his office, ignoring the stares. He found a message from Officer Daniels, again requesting an interview about the burglary incident. Realizing he couldn't dodge forever, Jesse called back, voice calm. "Officer, you left me a message." "Yes, Mr. Davis. The developments around Travis Mitchell are all over the news. Given you're the property owner where the alleged break-in happened, we want a brief meeting. Clarify statements." Jesse's stomach tensed. "Look, I was out of town that night. I can show you my flight tickets, although I ended up driving to handle some business. My wife reported the break-in." Daniels coughed. "I see. Let's schedule a short appointment tomorrow at the station, 10 in the morning, just to close any gaps." "Sure," Jesse said, fighting the dryness in his throat. "Tomorrow at 10. He hung up, taking a moment to steady himself. If they suspect me, they'll have a tough time proving anything. The battered state of Travis's body might cause suspicion, but all evidence pointed to them both lying about a random intruder. Jesse had to maintain his airtight alibi. Throughout the day, phone alerts pummeled Travis from every angle. By 4 p.m. on Thursday, the meltdown was unstoppable. He'd lost at least half his clients. The board of Zephyr demanded an immediate resignation or threatened a public vote of no confidence. Elaine had filed motions to freeze certain assets. The avalanche was unstoppable. Julia, too, was battered by the public shaming. People recognized her from the video's partial glimpses. Someone leaked her name, and soon enough, she was the subject of scornful gossip. Old friends texted her in shock or condemnation. Even Phoebe, though supportive, was deeply hurt by the betrayal of Jesse. Jesse stayed stoic, ignoring it all. He'd claimed his retribution, and now the consequences rained down, unstoppable. Even as a small part of him wondered if he'd gone too far, the bigger part told him, no. They deserved this. By the end of the day, he retreated to the same motel, checking in under a slightly different alias. His phone rang as he entered the room, an unknown number. He considered ignoring it, but answered, "Hello?" A deep voice he recognized Travis's. "You happy now, you piece of shit? You ruined me." Jesse let a beat pass. "You did this to yourself. All I did was show the world what was already there." Travis's ragged breathing crackled over the line. "You think you've won, but I can still take everything from you. Don't sleep too easy." A cold smile touched Jesse's lips. "I'm not worried. You can't bribe or threaten your way out of this, Travis. We're done." A bitter laugh came through. "We'll see," Travis said, then hung up abruptly. Jesse set the phone aside, a sense of finality washing over him. The great Travis Mitchell was teetering on the brink of madness, and Jesse had no regrets. Friday morning, 9:55 a.m. found Jesse stepping out of his SUV in front of the Crestwood Hills police station. The modest building of brick and tinted windows faced a small fountain and American flag fluttering in the summer breeze. Jesse wore a button-down shirt and slacks, projecting an air of calm respectability. He checked his phone. No new threats from Travis, but a string of missed calls from Julia. He ignored them, exhaling to steady himself. He could handle the police. He'd rehearsed his story for days. Inside, Officer Daniels greeted him politely. "Mr. Davis, appreciate you coming in." Jesse nodded. "Sure, let's get this done." They walked down a hallway lined with old plaques and motivational posters, entering a small interview room. A table, a few chairs, a fluorescent light overhead. Daniels closed the door. "Want anything? Coffee, water?" Daniels asked, flipping open a notebook. "I'm fine." "All right. So we'll keep this informal, not reading you Miranda or anything. You're not under arrest, just clarifying the burglary you reported or, well, your wife reported." Jesse forced a casual posture. "Right. Julia told me about it after the fact. I was supposedly traveling for a business meeting. Didn't hear about the break-in until she called." Daniels tapped a pen. "Can you confirm your whereabouts that evening?" Jesse slid over some printed documents. Logs from his office building's parking garage camera, verifying he'd parked there from 6 p.m. to about 9 p.m. plus receipts for late-night work. "I ended up staying at my office longer than expected. Then I drove to a motel out of town. My phone's location data should show I wasn't near the house. Meanwhile, Julia said someone broke in, assaulted Travis. That's all I know." Daniels gave a half nod, flipping through the pages. Travis Mitchell said he recalls a blow to the head and a shot fired with something like rubber bullets or specialized rounds. He's fuzzy on details. Jesse shrugged. "He's a wealthy guy. Maybe it was a kidnapping attempt or a vendetta from some business rival. I can't say." A flicker of suspicion crossed Daniels's eyes. "Odd that you're divorcing your wife, and the man she's rumored to have an affair with gets assaulted in your home. That's quite a coincidence." Jesse maintained a steady tone. "I can see why it looks suspicious, but you have no evidence tying me to any violence. The scandal about Travis cheating with my wife is public now. He's obviously looking to deflect blame. But I didn't do it." Daniels scribbled notes. "I get that. Well, if you recall anything that might help find this intruder, let us know." He snapped the notebook shut, leaning forward. "Off the record, Mr. Davis. If you were involved, it's best we settle this quietly before it escalates." Jesse met his gaze with cool composure. "I appreciate the concern, officer, but truly, I have nothing else to add." Daniels held that stare for a moment, then relented. "All right, you're free to go." Outside, Jesse drew in a lungful of relief. The confrontation was intense but short. He believed the police had no impetus to dig deeper unless Travis changed his story. And Travis was too compromised to accuse Jesse without dooming himself with the affair footage. Walking back to his SUV, Jesse noticed a black sedan parked across the street, engine running. A man in the driver's seat wore a baseball cap, sunglasses. Jesse paused, heart thumping. Was that one of Travis's watchers? He pretended not to notice, climbing into his SUV calmly. He started the engine, glancing at the rearview mirror. The sedan pulled out shortly after him, keeping a subtle distance. They're tailing me, Jesse realized, adrenaline spiking. He decided to test them. He drove in an erratic pattern, taking random turns, weaving through side streets. The sedan kept up, always a block behind, never too close. Fear and anger coiled within him. Travis is trying to intimidate me, maybe even setting up an ambush. At a red light, Jesse texted Nelson with a single line. Being followed. Plan B? Nelson's reply came a minute later. Lose them, then meet me at the factory. Plan B referred to a potential fallback location, an abandoned industrial building Jesse's company once considered renting for extra storage. They still held the lease for another month. It was half empty, on the outskirts of town, rarely visited. A perfect place to regroup or hide out if needed. When the light turned green, Jesse gunned the engine, swerving onto a highway ramp at the last second. The sedan tried to follow but got stuck behind traffic merging. With a burst of speed, Jesse left them behind, heart hammering. He would not be cornered so easily. Meanwhile, at the old Azalea Park near downtown, Julia sat alone on a bench. The mid-morning sun filtered through towering oaks, scattering dappled light on the path. She'd come here often in her youth to read or daydream. Now it was the only place she felt she could breathe. Her phone was clutched in one hand, the divorce papers in a folder on her lap. She'd scribbled some notes, ideas about how to approach Jesse for a more merciful settlement. Despite everything, she hoped for an ounce of compassion left in him. Yet she knew the situation had worsened drastically. The media had outed her as Travis's lover, making her a public pariah. She'd received hateful messages calling her a homewrecker, and worse. She had nightmares about leaving the house only to be shunned by neighbors or confronted by paparazzi. A rustle behind her made Julia start. Phoebe appeared, walking carefully on the grass. Julia? I got your text. You said you needed to see me. Julia stood, tears brimming at the sight of her friend's concerned face. Thank you for coming, she managed. They hugged, then sat on the bench. Phoebe studied the folder. So any developments? Julia swallowed hard. Jesse refuses to talk to me. He's cut me off. I want to negotiate, but he just says talk to my lawyer. His demands are harsh. I lose the house, get minimal support, and I'm jobless. Phoebe exhaled. I won't sugarcoat it, Julia. He's furious beyond measure. After that video leak, it looks like he's on a warpath. She fiddled with the folder edges. I know, but can you talk to him? He might listen to you. I'm desperate. I'll do anything public apology, sign NDAs, give him the entire story from my side. Maybe he'll ease up. Phoebe frowned. Are you serious? You think a conversation will fix the fallout from you sleeping with his boss? Julia's shoulders sagged. I know it's a long shot, but I've known you both for years. You're my only link to him. Phoebe sighed heavily. All right, I can try reaching him, but no promises, okay? He might hang up on me too. Julia nodded gratefully. Thank you. Any small chance is better than none. They rose from the bench, the hush of the park swallowing them. Julia hoped that somewhere in Jesse's heart, the man who once loved her still existed, enough to show her a shred of mercy. She forced herself to believe it, even if deep down she suspected the old Jesse was gone, replaced by an avenging force. That afternoon, Jesse arrived at the abandoned factory on the city's industrial outskirts. The property was enclosed by a tall chain-link fence, rust creeping along the edges. Unused shipping containers lined a side lot, and the main building loomed like a steel skeleton, half stripped of interior machinery. Nelson waited by a side entrance, pacing anxiously. He brightened when Jesse's SUV appeared, but worry etched his face. Everything okay? Jesse killed the engine, stepping out. Had a tail. I lost him for now. Nelson nodded, unlocking the heavy metal door. They entered a dim corridor that smelled of dust and stale air. Flicking on a portable lantern, Nelson guided them to an old office space that still had a few chairs and a battered desk. Jesse set down a backpack containing essentials, a laptop, some personal defense items, and water. I might crash here for a while if they keep sniffing around. Nelson frowned. This is no way to live, man. Hiding out in an abandoned building? A bitter chuckle escaped Jesse. Better than letting Travis's goons ambush me. Once the scandal dust settles, maybe they'll back off. Nelson pulled out his phone. I've been monitoring social media. Travis is finished at Zephyr. Everyone's distancing themselves from him. The firm might press charges for embezzlement if those offshore accounts lead to bigger infractions. Jesse slumped in a rickety chair, a slight sense of satisfaction stirring. Good. That was the plan. Let him drown in his own mess. Nelson hesitated, glancing at Jesse. What about your ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife? She's being crucified, too. A flicker of emotion darkened Jesse's eyes, but he kept his tone firm. She chose her bed. Let her lie in it. Nelson sighed. I get it. Just watch your soul, Jesse. Revenge can eat you alive. Jesse stared at the dusty floor. It already has. There's no turning back. Meanwhile, Travis lurked in his borrowed apartment, phone in hand, refreshing news sites. He saw the partnership officially strip him of managing authority. His name was tarnished beyond repair. The merger was suspended. He poured another stiff drink. His reflection in the cracked mirror across the room showed a man with bloodshot eyes, a bandaged shoulder, hair unkempt, spirit broken. A wave of self-loathing nearly choked him. But self-loathing morphed quickly into blame. He fixated on Jesse as the root cause. If only I'd gotten rid of him sooner. He recalled the half-baked plan with Pharaoh to take out Jesse. But that plan seemed moot now that the scandal was out. Killing Jesse wouldn't reverse the media damage. Still, Travis yearned for retribution. At least if I destroyed him, I'd have some twisted satisfaction. He typed a text to Pharaoh. Where the hell have you been? It's too late for hush money, but I still want him gone. Name your price. He hesitated before hitting send, a small vestige of caution telling him it was insane. But anger ruled. He pressed send, setting his phone aside. Another thought emerged. Elaine. She was no ally, likely she was already moving to secure her finances. If Travis truly lost everything, he had nothing to keep her from divorcing him and walking away with a substantial chunk. Stumbling to the kitchen, he rummaged for painkillers. His mind was a swirl of drunken fury and desperation. In his hazy logic, taking out Jesse might be the only piece of twisted comfort left to him, spiteful, yes, but so was everything else. By evening, Phoebe made good on her promise to Julia, calling Jesse. He answered on the third ring, sounding guarded. Hey, Jesse, Phoebe began softly. I know you might not want to talk, but I'm worried about Julia. His tone was distant. If this is about me giving her a break, you're wasting your breath. She made her bed with Travis. Now it's on her. I understand you're furious, Phoebe said, heartbreak tinging her voice. But she's basically homeless, jobless, and the entire city is trashing her. Maybe you could let her keep the house? She regrets everything. A laugh, cold and unyielding. House? Why should she keep a house that I paid for after she turned it into a playground for her boss? Phoebe cringed at his words. She messed up big time, but you guys were married for 15 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Silence on the line for a moment. Then, it meant everything to me. And I found out she was using me as a convenient provider while screwing Travis behind my back. That memory is enough to kill any compassion. Phoebe tried again. Just don't throw her into absolute poverty. She's a broken human being, Jesse. His reply was measured but stony. She should have thought of that before betraying me. The divorce stands as is. If she can't accept it, I'll crush her in court. I don't care anymore. Phoebe's eyes stung with tears. You're not the Jesse I remember. A pause. I'm not, he conceded. Tell her the only mercy I have is not exposing more details. If she contests the divorce, I'll leak everything else. And that's it. He hung up. Phoebe stared at the phone, tears slipping free. She knew she'd have to relay this to Julia, and it would devastate her further. She also felt the chill of how thoroughly Jesse had been transformed by pain. Friday night. Jesse returned to the abandoned factory, stopping en route for takeout Chinese, a six-pack of bottled water, and some basic supplies. The building was eerily silent, the only sounds the distant hum of traffic and the scraping of his footsteps on concrete floors. He found a corner in a large empty storage area with a cot that Nelson had brought earlier. Setting his food down, he ate in numb quiet, glancing at the flickering lantern. "This is my life now," he mused. Hiding from potential hitmen, using an industrial shell as a hideout. His phone buzzed, a text from Nelson. "Pharaoh is asking around about you. Be careful. He's rumored to do serious violence. Travis might have renewed efforts." Jesse's jaw tightened. The idea that Travis was still gunning for him even after everything didn't surprise him, but it reignited that primal fear. He typed back, "Got it. I'm armed. Let me know if you hear more." Then he rummaged in his bag for the pistol, checking its magazine. Next, he unrolled a sleeping bag on the cot, certain that any rest he got would be uneasy. Still, in the stagnant air of the factory, he let his mind drift to the immediate future. Finalizing the divorce, maybe selling Davis Aero Parts eventually, moving somewhere far. The hole in his chest felt permanent. Trusting anyone again seemed impossible. A subtle metallic clang echoed from somewhere down the hall. Jesse stiffened, heart pounding. He grabbed the pistol, clicking off the safety, straining to hear. Another clang, then silence. Possibly a gust of wind rattling a loose piece of sheet metal. He stood, creeping toward the corridor, adrenaline on high alert. The corridor lay in shadow, broken only by the faint glow of his lantern behind him. Another clang. He raised the pistol, eyes sweeping the gloom. A cat darted out from behind a pile of metal debris, hissing softly before scampering away. Jesse exhaled in relief, heart racing. A cat. He almost laughed at the absurdity, tension draining. But that near miss reminded him how close to the edge he lived. If that had been Travis or Pharaoh, he thought grimly, I'd be fighting for my life right now. He returned to the cot, pistol within arm's reach, every sense attuned to the potential danger lurking in the shadows. Saturday dawned with heavy clouds, threatening a summer storm. Julia woke at her parents' house, restless from nightmares of condemnation. She scrolled through her phone, swallowing a lump of despair when she saw new hateful comments on social media. Her father found her in the kitchen, pouring coffee with shaky hands. "Morning, sweetheart," he said quietly. "Your mother and I discussed your situation. We want you to stay as long as you need, but we also think you should see a therapist." She bit her lip. "I might. The shame is unbearable. I hurt Jesse so badly, and now the entire city hates me." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "Everyone makes mistakes, some bigger than others. But you have to keep living. Maybe you can find a job in another town, get a fresh start." She forced a watery smile. "Thanks, Dad. That might be for the best." In her mind, she replayed the memory of Jesse's single text. "You made your choice. Accept the consequences." Tears pricked her eyes again, but she blinked them away. She doubted he'd ever forgive her, and she had to learn to survive anyway. Travis spent the morning in a drunken haze, ignoring calls from the firm's lawyers, ignoring texts from outraged clients. At noon, he forced himself to shower in the grimy apartment, wincing at his shoulder's pain. He noticed he was nearly out of bandages. He rummaged for clothes, settled on a wrinkled dress shirt, the only semi-clean item he had left. His reflection showed a pale, drawn face. "This can't be my end," he thought. "I'm Travis Mitchell. I built an empire. I can't just vanish." A beep from the burner phone signaled a message from Pharaoh. "Locate your target. Price is doubled. I'll call with details." Travis stared. The man was still game for a final solution, apparently. Travis's moral compass was shattered. He typed back, "Money is no object. Do it soon." He realized he'd have to gather funds from a hidden stash or risk pulling from those flagged accounts. But if it meant erasing Jesse once and for all, Travis was ready to try. A savage glint returned to his eyes, spurred by the desire for revenge. Late Saturday afternoon, the storm broke, rain hammering the city. Jesse sat in near darkness at the factory, the single lantern guttering. Outside, thunder rumbled, lightning flashes illuminating cracks in the walls. Water dripped through a leak in the roof. He used the time to comb through final divorce details on his laptop. The law firm had emailed him updates. Julia's attorney threatened to argue for some spousal support due to the length of the marriage. But Jesse's ironclad evidence of adultery and documented emotional distress gave him a potent advantage. His phone buzzed with an incoming call from Tara Garcia, his divorce attorney. He answered quickly. "Jesse, I have news," Tara said. "Julia's lawyer is pushing for mediation. They want to avoid a nasty court battle." He sneered. "Avoiding a nasty battle? Julia made it nasty the moment she cheated." Tara's voice stayed neutral. "Yes, well, they're hoping for a faster resolution. If you settle quickly, Julia likely won't fight further. She's in a vulnerable position." "Good. Then I want the house sold. Profits to me. She can keep her personal car and minimal personal items. That's it. No spousal support." Tara paused. "They might push for a small monthly sum for a short period, but nothing major. Let me see if we can meet in the middle. Is that acceptable?" Jesse's jaw clenched. He pictured Julia, jobless with nowhere to go. Serves her right. But a faint echo of guilt nudged him. "Fine. 6 months of minimal support. After that, she's on her own." Tara typed notes. "All right, I'll propose that. The good news is this means you'll finalize the divorce soon, perhaps within weeks." He exhaled. Relief and sadness intertwined. "All right, let's finalize it." Ending the call, Jesse gazed at the pattering rain outside, feeling a bleak sense of resolution. Once the divorce was done, he could start fresh, maybe move out of state, bury his memories. But first, he had to survive Travis Mitchell's wrath. Sunday morning dawned gray and dreary. Jesse woke on the factory cot, stiff from another uneasy night. The rain had stopped, leaving puddles on the floor. He rose, swigged some bottled water, and splashed it on his face. In the corner of the office area, Nelson dozed in a folding chair he'd insisted on spending the night here after hearing chatter that Travis's goons were still sniffing around. The moment Jesse stirred, Nelson jerked awake. "Morning," he mumbled. "You didn't have to stay," Jesse said, though he felt a flash of gratitude. Nelson shrugged. "You're my friend, man. I can't let you face potential hitmen alone." They shared a meager breakfast of vending machine snacks. Then Nelson checked his phone. "News about Travis is explosive. Half the financial blogs are discussing potential criminal charges. He might be indicted for tax fraud, or the SEC might investigate." A grim smile touched Jesse's lips. Karma. Nelson nodded but said nothing. The emptiness of the factory amplified their tension. Julia faced a different kind of emptiness. She sat at her parents' dining table, forcing down toast and jam. The TV in the corner played a morning show. The anchor teased a segment about sordid affairs in the corporate world. She quickly turned it off, stomach queasy. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Hello?" A harsh male voice. "Julia Davis?" Her pulse jumped. "Yes?" "This is Brad from Buzzgate blog. We're running a feature on the Travis Mitchell affair scandal. Care to comment on your relationship with him? Maybe set the record straight?" Her chest clenched. "No comment. Don't call me again." She hung up, feeling a wave of panic. The world wanted her shame, her story. She felt like a freak show exhibit. Stumbling to the couch, she buried her face in her hands. Her parents cast worried glances. They wanted to help, but only she could navigate the toxic fallout of her actions. She closed her eyes, wishing she could vanish from the city altogether. By mid-morning, Travis left his hideout to meet Farrow at a deserted gas station near the old highway. The plan was to pass along details for a final hit on Jesse. The entire drive, Travis's mind whirled with how pointless it might seem, given his empire had crumbled. But he needed the twisted satisfaction of seeing Jesse suffer. He parked near a rusted pump, scanning the surroundings. A black SUV rolled in, tinted windows, engine idling. Travis recognized the driver from an earlier conversation with Farrow. The man stepped out, a tall figure in a leather jacket, gun bulge visible under his clothes. "Mitchell?" Travis nodded, throat dry. "Where's Farrow?" "Busy. He sent me." The man's voice was gravelly. "Give me the target's info and half payment up front. We'll handle the rest." Travis swallowed, pulling an envelope of cash from his jacket. It was all he could scrape together from hidden corners. "Here. It's close to 15 grand. I'll get you the rest after." The man counted it quickly, then nodded. "Where do we find him?" Travis's mouth tightened. He's been lying low, last known to be bouncing between motels. Here's his license plate, possible friends' addresses. He's also rumored to have some ties to an abandoned factory on the outskirts. He scribbled the location on a crumpled paper. The man took it, scanning. We'll confirm, wait for the right moment. Then we deal with him. A strange hollowness gripped Travis. He was truly paying for a murder, or at least a violent assault. I've become a monster, he thought, but pressed on anyway. Make it painful, he hissed. The man smirked. Pain costs extra. Travis forced a half-laugh. Do what you must. They parted ways. Travis got back into his car, heart pounding. The final step was set in motion. Even if it didn't restore his fortune, at least he'd get vengeance. Jesse and Nelson spent Sunday afternoon formulating a plan to get Jesse out of the city. With the divorce nearly settled, the scandal at a boiling point, and the looming threat of violence, Jesse saw little reason to stay. We can finalize the divorce via mail or remote court sessions, Jesse said, pacing the factory's dusty hallway. Then I'll sell Davis Aero Parts to a partner or competitor. I have enough money stashed from the hush payments I extorted from Travis. Nelson folded his arms. Any idea where you'd go? A sigh. Maybe Texas or Florida, someplace with big aerospace markets. Start fresh. Nelson gave a slow nod. Can't blame you, but do me a favor, let me help keep the business afloat until you secure a deal. We can't let it crash. A small smile flickered on Jesse's lips. Of course. Davis Aero Parts is stable. I can sell it for a decent chunk. Then I'll be set. They exchanged a handshake, a wordless agreement that their friendship would endure, even if Jesse left town. Late Sunday, the storm clouds regrouped, rain hammering the city again. The dilapidated roof leaked more, forcing Jesse and Nelson to move their makeshift camp to a higher floor. Water pooled in the corners, creating a steady drip-drip. Nelson stared at his phone. Travis is trending again. Rumor is he might be indicted for tax evasion next week. People are calling him the next big white-collar criminal. Jesse huffed. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But as the thunder growled outside, a prickling sense of unease tugged at Jesse's gut. He remembered the black sedan that had tailed him, Travis's vow for revenge. Would he be so desperate as to order a hit? He told himself Travis was too busy defending his own hide, yet deep down he suspected the worst. Around 2 a.m., with the rain still pouring, Jesse jolted awake on the cot to a faint metallic sound again, this time sharper, closer. He bolted upright, heart pounding. Nelson stirred too, eyes wide. Did you hear that? Jesse whispered. Nelson nodded, grabbing a flashlight. They stayed still, listening. The quiet thunder of rain outside, the occasional drip inside, then a scuff of footsteps on concrete, definitely not from a stray cat. Jesse's pulse hammered. He snatched his pistol from under the makeshift pillow. Travis's men? A faint beam of light danced across a wall down the corridor. Someone was methodically checking rooms. Nelson's face paled. We need to slip out, he mouthed silently. Jesse nodded, adrenaline spiking. But the intruders seemed between them and the main exit. Another muffled footstep crunched on debris. They crept to a side window in the old office. The glass was partially broken, but a rusted metal barrier made climbing out tricky. Rain lashed the outside. Crack, the sound of a bullet or metal clang echoed, startling them. The intruders might have fired at a lock or a door. Jesse's mind reeled. They're armed. He gestured for Nelson to follow him deeper into the building, away from the corridor. They slid behind a cluster of old file cabinets. A low voice cut through the darkness. Spread out. He's here somewhere. Jesse's stomach lurched. He recognized the harsh edge in that voice. No doubt these were hired muscle. He clenched the pistol, fighting panic. I'm not going to die here. Seconds stretched into eternity. A flashlight beam swept across the floor, flickering dangerously close to their hiding spot. Jesse motioned for Nelson to stay quiet. He weighed options, fight or flee. The main exit was presumably covered. The building had few alternative egress points. If he engaged, he risked a firefight. If he waited, they might corner him. Nelson tapped his shoulder, pointing to a utility door that might lead to a side-loading dock. Jesse nodded. They began creeping that way, inch by inch, every nerve on fire. Suddenly, crash, a figure knocked over a metal shelf in the corridor, swearing. Another voice hissed, "Shut up, keep looking." Jesse felt a surge of near-blind fear. He was no soldier, but if cornered, he'd defend himself. With the pistol in hand, he led Nelson to the utility door, which was locked with a chain from the inside. He fumbled quietly, adrenaline making his fingers clumsy. He forced a small crowbar, which Nelson had left among the supplies, between the chain links, straining to pry. The metal groaned. Footsteps approached. A flicker of flashlight soared along the hallway. Time's running out. Snap the chain broke. Jesse and Nelson shoved the door open. The cold, rain-soaked wind blasted their faces. They emerged onto a loading dock platform that was partially fenced. The ground below lay about 6 feet down, leading to a muddy lot. Another beam of light flickered behind them, a muffled shout, "Hey!" No time to think. Jesse jumped off the dock, landing in a puddle with a splash, rolling to absorb impact. Nelson followed, nearly twisting his ankle. Thunder rumbled overhead as they sprinted across the muddy lot, rain pelting them. A bullet whizzed past, thudding into the ground. Jesse's pulse thundered. He fired a wild shot over his shoulder, not aiming to kill but to discourage pursuit. They reached the chain-link fence, slick with rain. The gate was locked. Heart pounding, Jesse scrambled to climb it. The wire shook under his weight, adrenaline fueling him. Nelson followed, panting. Another gunshot cracked the night, hitting the fence with a metallic ping. They dropped onto the other side, knees buckling. A black SUV idled on the street, headlights off. Inside, a figure rolled down the window, presumably one of the watchers. Another muzzle flash lit the stormy night. The bullet zipped wide, smacking asphalt. "Over here!" Jesse yelled to Nelson. They dashed behind a parked semi-trailer, breathing ragged. The SUV's engine roared. Headlights flicked on, sweeping the lot. "We can't outrun a car!" Nelson gasped. Jesse scanned frantically. Down the street was a small side alley. If they could get there, they might vanish into the warren of industrial blocks. He gritted his teeth, pistol in hand. "Let's do this. On 3, we run." Nelson nodded, terror etched on his face. 1. The SUV revved, lurching forward. 2, another figure emerged from the factory, sprinting to the SUV. 3, Jesse and Nelson bolted, weaving between parked vehicles. A hail of bullets clattered off metal siding. Sparks flew in the darkness. Rain hammered all around, turning the pavement slick. Jesse's mind roared with fear. "Don't die! Don't die!" They reached the alley, diving behind a dumpster. The SUV roared past the mouth of the alley, tires screeching. The gunman might be searching the next block. For a moment, they caught their breath. The stench of wet garbage clung to them. Nelson coughed, wide-eyed. That was insane. Jesse nodded, chest heaving. "Travis's men. They're serious." Nelson wiped rain from his face. "We gotta get out of here, now." No arguments. They trudged through the alley, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. After a few blocks of weaving through deserted streets, they found a safer main road. They flagged a passing taxi, ignoring the driver's suspicious glare at their drenched, panicked state. They hopped in, shouting directions. The driver peeled away, leaving the industrial zone behind. Jesse clutched the pistol under his wet jacket, mind reeling. The reality of Travis's deadly vendetta was no longer just a threat, it was an active hunt. They ended up at a budget motel on the far side of town, paying in cash for 2 rooms. The clerk raised an eyebrow at their soaked clothes, but took the money without question. In the dingy motel room, Jesse finally allowed himself to shiver from both cold and the raw terror of the near-death chase. Nelson paced, hair dripping. "Travis is definitely trying to kill you," Nelson said, voice shaky. "We can't stay here. Let's leave the city, tonight." Jesse slumped on the bed, cradling his head in his hands. "My business, the divorce, I can't just vanish." "You can do it remotely," Nelson pressed. "We'll figure it out. The alternative is you get shot in some warehouse." A wave of exhaustion swamped Jesse. He realized Nelson was right. Surviving was paramount. The anger at Travis was overshadowed by raw survival instinct. "Okay," he relented. "Let's gather what we can. Leave first thing in the morning." Nelson nodded. "I'll text your attorney, set up remote signings. We'll handle the business sale by proxy if needed." Jesse exhaled, relief and despair mingling. He was abandoning the place he'd built his life. Yet that life was already shattered. Maybe a clean break is the only way, he thought. Lightning flashed outside, the storm intensifying. He stared at the drab motel curtains, imagining Travis somewhere, seething that his men had failed to corner him. This war is final. I just need to slip away and let Travis burn. While Jesse and Nelson formulated their escape, Julia sat alone in her childhood bedroom, tears slipping silently as she reread the meager settlement offer from Jesse's lawyer. She'd get no more than 6 months of minimal financial support, then she was on her own. Her mother knocked softly. "Can I come in?" Julia mustered a trembling yes. Her mother entered, perching on the edge of the bed. "I hate seeing you like this, but maybe this settlement is a blessing so you can move on." Julia sniffled, hugging a pillow. "Move on? To where? My career is ruined, my reputation is destroyed, and the man I cheated with is being indicted." A sigh. "People rebound from worse. You're alive, healthy, you have family." Julia's throat constricted. She recalled how she once dismissed her parents' opinions, thinking she'd outgrown their small-town ways. Now they were her only refuge. She whispered, "I regret it all. I wish I could just tell Jesse how sorry I am." Her mother smoothed her hair gently. "You can apologize 1,000,000 times, but he might never forgive you. That's the cost of betrayal. All you can do is keep living and hope in time to find peace." Julia nodded, tears pooling. She had no illusions left. Her world had crumbled, and she'd have to rebuild from the ashes. She held on to the faint hope that, years from now, she might have a chance at redemption, even if it meant forging a life without Jesse. Midnight found Jesse and Nelson lying on stiff motel beds in separate rooms, occasionally texting each other about the plan. A sense of urgency loomed. Travis might dispatch more men soon. The city felt tainted with danger. Jesse locked and loaded his pistol, setting it on the bedside table. Sleep came in fitful bursts, nightmares of shadowy figures in the dark. Each thunderclap jolted him awake, expecting gunfire. When dawn finally broke, the storm clouds receded, leaving a humid haze. Jesse and Nelson packed quickly, returning their keys to the front desk. They'd slip out of the city before anyone could track them. As Jesse loaded his SUV in the parking lot, he paused. He snapped a final glance at the skyline, half expecting to feel some nostalgia. Instead, he felt only emptiness. The city had become a battlefield of betrayal and violence. He climbed in, heart pounding. Nelson settled in the passenger seat. They drove off, forging a path to the interstate, determined to outrun Travis's final attempts at vengeance. In the rearview mirror, the city's silhouette shrank. Jesse exhaled, gripping the wheel. "It's over," he told himself, though part of him knew the scars of betrayal would never fully heal. A week later, Jesse found himself in a small town 3 states away, population barely 20,000, rolling farmland in every direction. He and Nelson rented a modest 2-bedroom ranch house on the outskirts, paying the landlord 3 months' rent up front in cash. During the drive out of the city, they'd constantly checked mirrors for tails, but none appeared. Travis's men either lost them or gave up. Now, in this quiet place, Jesse tried to breathe freely. He spent the first few days in near seclusion, occasionally jumping on calls with his divorce attorney and a business broker interested in buying Davis Aero parts. Each conversation felt surreal, as though he'd stepped out of his old life into a parallel world. Tara Garcia coordinated the final divorce settlement. She updated Jesse by phone. "Julia has accepted the terms. She keeps personal property, 6 months of small monthly support, then it ends. The house will be sold next month and you'll receive the bulk of proceeds." Jesse closed his eyes, relief mingling with a dull ache. "All right, I'll sign whatever final paperwork is needed." Tara paused. "She also asked if she could write you a letter, just to express her remorse. I said I'd pass the message along." A beat of silence. Jesse's chest tightened. "Tell her to send it if she wants. I can't guarantee I'll respond." "Understood," Tara said softly. "I'll finalize everything. By next week, your divorce is legally binding." He hung up, the final thread of his marriage unraveling. 15 years with Julia ended in a swirl of scandal and heartbreak. Despite the triumph of revenge, it felt hollow. Nelson found a local bar in town, a cozy place with wood-paneled walls and friendly patrons. He coaxed Jesse to join him one evening, hoping a small taste of normal life might help. They slid into a booth, ordered burgers and beers. The locals gave them polite nods, not prying into their backgrounds. Jesse could almost pretend he was an ordinary traveler. Nelson clinked his beer against Jesse's. "To new beginnings," he said quietly. Jesse forced a smile, taking a swig. The crisp beer slid down his throat, but the guilt and anger in his gut lingered. "New beginnings," he echoed, lacking conviction. As they ate, they discussed the pending sale of Davis Aero Parts. A competitor was eager to buy, the deal nearing final negotiations. "You'll net a solid chunk," Nelson said. "Enough to retire or start fresh in another business." Jesse shrugged. "I just want to vanish, maybe buy a quiet place somewhere, far from that city." Nelson eyed him. "You sure you don't want to keep going in aerospace? You built that company from scratch." A slow exhale. "I used to love it because Julia was proud of me. Now I can't stand the memories attached to it." Nelson frowned, but let it drop. They lapsed into silence, finishing their meal under the soft hum of small-town chatter. Meanwhile, the city Jesse left behind was in chaos for Travis. The board of Zephyr Consulting publicly ousted him. The SEC launched an investigation into alleged accounting fraud. Former clients filed civil suits. Elaine froze key assets, planning her own exit strategy from the marriage. One morning, Travis woke in his squalid hideout, phone buzzing with new legal notices. Hangover pounding, he scrolled. Demands for restitution. Possible criminal charges looming. He'd burned through his available funds, paying for a fruitless hit on Jesse. Farrow's men had almost cornered Jesse at that factory, but apparently the target escaped. Farrow demanded the rest of the fee anyway, citing operational costs. Travis had no money left to pay, so ironically, he now owed a criminal enterprise as well. He stared in the mirror, seeing a haggard man with stubble and bloodshot eyes. Where did my life go? He wondered. Once he reveled in wealth and power, humiliating others for sport. Now, he was a pariah, teetering on the brink of prison. A fury rose within him. He considered leaving the country, but Elaine's asset freeze made that complicated. He had no illusions his downfall was total. In a drunken haze, he typed a final message to Julia. "I regret ever touching you. You ruined me as much as Jesse did. Don't ever speak to me again." He sent it, collapsed on the couch, cursing the entire world. Julia read that message in her parents' driveway, phone trembling in her hand. She'd come outside for fresh air, hoping to quell the headache pounding her temples. Travis's words stung, but they also hammered home how misguided she'd been to trust him. She typed no reply, simply blocking his number. She had zero illusions about him now he was cruel, self-centered, and destructive. She regretted every second spent in his orbit. A car pulled up. Phoebe, stopping by to see how Julia was faring. Julia forced a small smile, pocketing her phone. Phoebe approached, pulling Julia into a brief hug. "Hey, you okay?" Julia shrugged. "I'm breathing. I guess that's enough for now." They walked the neighborhood block, a slow stroll past neatly trimmed lawns. Some neighbors eyed them warily from windows, gossip lingering about the Davis scandal. Julia tried to ignore the stares. "Any update on Jesse?" Phoebe asked gently. Julia shook her head. "Nothing. I know the divorce is final soon. Then that's that." Phoebe pursed her lips. "Maybe it's for the best. I tried reaching him again, but he's gone dark. I heard from Karen at Davis Aero Parts that he sold the business and left town." Julia's chest constricted. "So I'll never see him again." They paused under an oak tree, the sun filtering through leaves. Phoebe squeezed Julia's hand. "Time heals eventually. You made a mistake, well, a massive mistake, but life goes on. You can rebuild, maybe in another city." Julia nodded, tears threatening to spill. "I don't even know where to start." "Step by step," Phoebe whispered. "Find a new job, maybe therapy. Let your parents help for a while. The storm will pass." Julia swallowed hard, clinging to that fragile hope. The storm had ravaged her life, but perhaps a faint glimmer of dawn existed beyond the horizon. Back in the small, out-of-state town, Jesse closed the final sale of Davis Aero Parts via a phone conference with the buyer's lawyers. He netted a hefty deposit into a newly created account under an LLC. Enough money to buy land, maybe retire early. After the call, he paced the little ranch's porch, phone in hand. A single email from Julia had arrived, forwarded by Tara Garcia. The subject line read, "Final words." He debated deleting it unread, but found his finger tapping to open it instead. Julia's email. "Jesse, I know you probably won't read this, but I need to say it. I'm so sorry. I was weak, tempted by Travis's attention and money. I betrayed the one person who gave me unconditional love for 15 years. I can't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know I regret every minute of that affair. It cost me everything, and I live with the guilt every second. If I could turn back time, I would never look at Travis twice. I would have cherished our life, our home. I can't fix the harm I caused, and I understand your anger. I accept that we're done. I just hope, one day, you find peace, and maybe can think of me without pure hatred. Thank you for the years of happiness we did have. I'll never forget them, or you." Julia Jesse's throat felt tight reading her words. A swirl of anger, pain, and nostalgia coursed through him. He imagined her writing this, tears in her eyes. Once he would have done anything to protect her from sorrow. Now he was the cause of it, in a sense. His hands shook. He typed a brief reply, then erased it. Another try, then erased it again. Ultimately, he closed the email, leaving it unanswered. There's nothing left to say. Nelson found Jesse on the porch, gazing out at the rolling farmland. "Hey," Nelson said softly. "You all right?" Jesse inhaled the fresh country air. "Just read an email from Julia. She's sorry." Nelson slid hands into his pockets. "Figured that was coming. Gonna respond?" A bitter smile tugged at Jesse's lips. "What can I say? The damage is done. I don't want to be with her, can't forgive her, but part of me still aches." Nelson nodded. "It's normal. She was your wife for half your adult life." Jesse closed his eyes, feeling the tears he refused to shed. "I guess I just have to live with it." They stood in silence, the wind rustling tall grass in the fields. The sun dipped low, painting the sky with oranges and pinks. For a moment, the tension in Jesse's chest eased, replaced by a quiet acceptance. In the city, Travis's empire officially collapsed. News outlets announced Zephyr Consulting's restructuring, disclaimers that Travis Mitchell was no longer affiliated. The SEC subpoenaed him. Elaine's lawyers filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, effectively quarantining the bulk of assets. Late one night, Travis, drunk and desolate, scrolled through old photos on his phone. Images of lavish parties, exotic vacations, women on his arm, Julia among them. He felt an ache, not for love, but for the power he once wielded. He considered fleeing the country, but the freeze on his accounts made that nearly impossible. When the wall clock struck midnight, he typed a message to Pharaoh. "Your men failed. I can't pay more. Forget it." He tossed the phone aside, hating the weakness he saw in himself. Eventually, exhaustion overcame him. He curled on the couch, imagining a future overshadowed by lawsuits, possible prison. The unstoppable Travis Mitchell had become a cautionary tale. Julia, for her part, accepted a minimal caretaker job at a local retirement home. Her father had a friend who managed the place. It was far from glamorous, but it gave her a reason to get up each day, focusing on helping elderly residents with daily tasks. One afternoon, as she guided a wheelchair-bound woman to the recreation room, she caught her reflection in a hallway mirror. She wore a simple uniform, hair pulled back, face drawn but earnest. "Maybe this is good for me," she thought. An honest job, no illusions. In the mirror, she imagined a younger version of herself, carefree, believing she'd ascend some corporate ladder with Travis's help. That version was gone, replaced by a humbler, haunted woman. She whispered a quiet vow to do better, to find redemption through kindness, though she doubted she'd ever outrun the shame. Weeks bled into a month, and Jesse's divorce was finalized. The settlement funds from the house sale arrived, bolstering his new account. He used some to purchase a small, secluded farmhouse in the same county where he and Nelson were renting. The locals were friendly, but didn't pry. Jesse told them he was a consultant, which wasn't too far from reality. He had an aerospace background, after all. He spent his days fixing up the old farmhouse, clearing brush, painting walls. At night, he sometimes lay awake, mind drifting to the heartbreak that led him here. Nelson eventually returned to the city for his own life, but they kept in touch. Jesse promised to visit him or maybe partner on a future project. For now, though, he relished the solitude, rebuilding himself one day at a time. Travis eventually faced multiple indictments for financial crimes. He pleaded not guilty, but few believed him. Elaine, armed with high-powered attorneys, hammered him in divorce court. She walked away wealthier, free of his scandal. Julia continued working quietly, saving a bit of money each paycheck. Rumors about her affair died down, overshadowed by bigger news. Some neighbors still gossiped, but the fury subsided. She planned to move out of her parents' place soon, maybe find a small studio apartment. Her therapist suggested she write down her regrets each night, then burn the paper in a symbolic release. She found it helped a little. Jesse at the farmhouse. A crisp autumn breeze swept leaves across the yard. Jesse stood on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and orange. He'd turned a spare bedroom into a small workshop, sometimes tinkering with mechanical parts, reminiscent of his old hardware business. He found a fragile peace here. No gunshots in the night, no looming betrayal. The memory of Julia still haunted him at times, but the bitterness softened. He realized that hate was exhausting. Perhaps one day he might let go entirely, though forgiveness was another matter. Julia's quiet shift. Julia, finishing her evening shift at the retirement home, bid goodnight to an elderly man who reminded her of Jesse's father, warm-hearted, always supportive. She tucked a blanket around him, thinking, if only I could turn back time. Exiting the building, she paused under the starry sky, inhaling the cool air. She texted Phoebe, I think I'm going to move out next month. Found a small place. Wish me luck. A moment later, Phoebe replied with a heart emoji and words of encouragement. Julia smiled sadly, determined to keep moving forward. Travis in Court Travis stood before a judge, his lawyer fidgeting at his side. Prosecutors presented evidence of falsified accounts, shell companies. The judge denied him bail, citing flight risk. His shoulders drooped, once proud posture deflated. As he was led away, camera flashes exploded outside the courthouse, reporters shouting questions. Travis kept his head down, everything lost. Elaine's victory. Elaine sipped champagne at a lavish restaurant with a small circle of well-dressed friends. She'd just emerged from final divorce hearings, her ex-husband indicted. The settlement awarded her significant assets. She laughed politely at a friend's joke, though her eyes flickered with a guarded glint. She'd learned well from the fiasco trust no one entirely. Keep your finances secure. She raised her glass in a silent toast to her own survival. Scene E. Nelson's visit. Months later, Nelson drove out to Jesse's farmhouse in a pickup truck. He found Jesse in the backyard, clearing an overgrown garden bed. They embraced like brothers, then shared cold drinks on the porch. Nelson recounted how the city had moved on to new scandals, how Julia was living quietly, and Travis faced years in court. Jesse nodded, listening, not saying much. When Nelson asked if he missed his old life, Jesse gazed at the horizon, letting the silence speak volumes. Finally, he answered, No, I miss the innocence maybe, but not the illusions. They clinked bottles, letting the late afternoon sun warm them, the final unspoken truth that some scars never fade, but life can still go on. At last, the echoes of betrayal and revenge settled into a subdued aftermath. Jesse survived and carved a new path, wiser and wearier. Julia lived with regret, shaping a humbler future. Travis paid for his arrogance in legal and personal ruin. Elaine thrived on her cunning, reaping the spoils. No one emerged unscathed, yet each found a way forward, whether through wealth, humility, or solitude. The city that hosted their twisted drama returned to its regular pulse, strangers gossiping about the next headline, forgetting the old scandal. For Jesse, the quiet farmland and the gentle hush of an honest day's work offered something akin to healing. He'd never forget the pain, but he could at last keep it at bay as he stepped across dewy grass each morning, no longer glancing over his shoulder for a final bullet. He stood on that porch at twilight, gazing at the sky, remembering a line he'd once read, "Every betrayal begins with trust." But so too does every new chapter begin with hope fragile, uncertain, and yet undeniably present. Hey, listeners of Temptress Cheating Tales.